Chapter 1862. After taking the attribute treasure chests and attribute light balls that Zhuge Taichu had dropped, Lin Chen's cultivation had reached a critical point. As long as he wanted to, he could break through to a new realm at any time. Lin Chen turned to the area outside the Divine River star system. It was the place where Sword God and Knife God had escaped. They were both very far away. Without the War God set support, Lin Chen would have to spend a lot of time to reach there. 10 days later, Lin Chen arrived at the location of Sword God's sword extinction. A pitch-black divine light shot up into the sky. It was actually a light pillar emitted by the attribute light. Lin Chen had never seen a black attribute treasure chest before. This was the first time. Lin Chen stepped into the center of the divine light and took the treasure chest in the attribute light pillar. Obtained Godhead Attribute Treasure Chest. Upon opening it, you will obtain an energy-type Godhead, Divine Guidance Fragment, 1/6. A pitch-black, circular Godhead fragment that was emitting a vast black light floated in front of Lin Chen. Lin Chen had a feeling that even his gaze and body were being sucked in. His intuition told him that if the power in this Godhead fragment exploded, he would most likely be in trouble even if he was in the Godslayer state. Divine Guidance, Godhead, consumes a large amount of heavenly path points to activate four-dimensional godly power to form a supergravity barrier. Within a specified range, it can activate four-dimensional godly power to crush enemies and shrink the barrier. The range is up to the host's discretion. It can be activated within the host's primordial spirit's range of perception. If I can collect it completely, this will definitely be a Godhead that's even crazier than the Divine Elephant Godhead. Lin Chen was shocked. The pressure that this item gave him was even stronger than the Divine Elephant Godhead. This was just a fragment. If it was a complete Godhead, how terrifying would it be? It was unimaginable. I'll keep it first. If I have the chance, I'll test its power again. Lin Chen kept the attribute light balls of Sword God, Sword Extinction. Hundreds of attribute light balls of terrifying quality were all absorbed into Lin Chen's body. Then, 4 days later, at the border of the divine system where Knife God had died, open special attribute treasure chest. Host received orange grade top alchemy handprint fragment, 5/5. Host can synthesize a complete alchemy handprint at any time. Divine treasure chest opened. Congratulations, you have obtained a permanent top orange talent fragment. Ultimate Defiant 1/6. Permanent ultimate heaven-defying innate talent. The system has determined that it is orange rank peak. The corners of Lin Chen's mouth twitched fiercely a few times. It was actually a fragment of the eternal ultimate heaven defiant. Breaking through his defense was an instant kill. The most insane talent in history had actually dropped a permanent fragment. No wonder he was able to kill an opponent who was 2 realms above him. The more difficult it was for the host to fight, the more ridiculous the probability of dropping a top-grade treasure would be. If I can gather all the permanent ultimate heavenly defiance, theoretically speaking, my chances of winning any battle won't be 0. If he could use the Golden Battle God set and the ultimate heaven-defying innate skill. No matter how desperate the situation was, as long as these 2 trump cards could be used, Lin Chen would always have a chance to turn the tables. Saber God, oh Saber God, you are such a good person. It also comes with the final item, the top orange handprint fragment. Lin Chen sighed and kept the remaining attribute light balls in one go. Next, it was the location where the 3 veteran demon emperors, Calamity Demon Emperor, Heaven Fiend Demon Emperor, and Bloodthirsty Demon Emperor, had fallen. Lin Chen pushed forward at full speed and arrived at his destination in 7 days. Compared to the 3 new demon emperors, the attributes dropped by the 3 veteran demon emperors did not disappoint Lin Chen. The amount of blood and energy they dropped was simply massive. As for the attribute treasure chest, there was only one. Yet, it made Lin Chen ecstatic. Open Divine Treasure Chest. Congratulations, you have obtained a permanent top orange talent fragment. Ultimate Heavenly Defiant, 2 out of 6. Open Divine Treasure Chest. Congratulations, you have obtained a permanent top orange talent fragment. Ultimate Heavenly Defiant, 3 out of 6. Open Divine Treasure Chest. Congratulations, you have obtained a permanent top orange talent fragment. Ultimate Heavenly Defiant, 4 out of 6. 3 Ultimate Heavenly Defiant Talent Fragments. Lin Chen was only 2 fragments away from becoming a permanent Ultimate Heavenly Defiant, and he would have the strongest trump card combination. My blood, energy, and saint-level essence have accumulated to a state of limit. It's time to break through to a new realm. 10 days later, Lin Chen returned. This time, he had used a month's time just to collect the attribute light balls. At this time, in the sacred boundary, all the experts were recovering and recuperating. Rumble. Suddenly, the entire sacred boundary shook. What's going on? The demon-human army is attacking again? No, there's no demon-human aura. It's the fluctuation of saint power. Impossible. This energy covers the entire sacred boundary. What kind of saint power can cover such a wide space-time? A large number of sage kings came out of seclusion and looked at each other in shock. The space-time of the sacred boundary shook continuously, and beams of 9-colored saint light shone on the sacred boundary. It was as if some shocking power was about to awaken and rule the world. When the sage kings looked up, they were completely shocked. The rotating 9-colored saint light vortex expanded like an astrolabe and continued to expand, covering the entire sacred boundary. Rumble! 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 The saint light vortex erupted with terrifying power, releasing endless saint power that could topple mountains and overturn seas. Just from the direction of the extraterritorial battlefield, it was as if endless power had swept through the sacred boundary. It's the phenomenon of a saint breaking through? The sage kings were shocked. This breakthrough phenomenon that could easily kill a reincarnation sage was actually just a saint breaking through? How freakishly talented must a saint be to have such a phenomenon? In the highest sky of the heavenly sacred territory, when Qin Wudi, Long Tianqi, and the other quasi-gods and reincarnation sages looked into the sky and saw the figure in the saint light vortex, the corners of their mouths couldn't help but twitch and their scalps went numb. What a monster! Qin Wudi smiled bitterly in his heart. He, the first on the saint talent list, was as weak as a baby in front of that person. We're witnessing the birth of the most freakishly talented person in our race. Long Tianqi sighed. His saint power is starting to move closer to the Na Xing realm. Such powerful saint power, but he's only a 7th level saint. What a freak. If he reaches the Sage King realm, who in the world can stop him? I'm afraid he'll be the strongest sage. When the many supreme experts looked into the sky, their admiration for the founder of the new era of the human race reached an unparalleled peak. The figure in the 9-colored saint light vortex was Lin Chen. Previously, Lin Chen had opened 58 saint acupoints and was a 6th-level saint, late-stage life and death realm. Now, all his accumulated power was unleashed. 59th Saint Acupoint, open. 56th Saint Acupoint, open. 51st Saint Acupoint, open. Holy light danced in the air like dragons, and countless holy light beams broke through to a whole new level with unstoppable force. The saint power entered the saint acupoints and condensed like stars. This was the Na Xing realm. Lin Chen had stepped into the 7th-level saint realm. Apart from that, the power of his physical body was also surging. Although most of the qi and blood attributes were absorbed by the Dragon King, even if the main body absorbed a small part of the qi and blood attributes, the body-refining realm would still skyrocket. It wasn't over yet. Lin Chen's realm was still soaring wildly all the way. Chapter 1863. Boom. Boom. Boom! Terrifying Saint power rushed into the sky and penetrated the 63rd Saint point. Like a dragon, the Saint power continued to surge toward the new Saint point. The mountain sea prison could not compare to even 1/10,000th of it. The number of attribute light balls Lin Chen absorbed this time was unprecedented and could be called abnormal. There were the human gods, the 7 demon emperors, the demon god king's remains, the female empress heaven slaying demon blade, all the higher-ups of the demon race, the clones of the true gods, and so on. The number of attribute light balls was in the millions. Chi, chi, chi. Rumble. Lin Chen broke through 10 Saint acupoints in a row. 136 Saint acupoints flickered with hexagonal starlight as they radiated a brilliant Saint aura that seemed to be indestructible. It covered the heavens and the earth, enveloping the myriad planes and shaking the entire holy world. Even across the extraterritorial battlefield, many human experts were still shocked. 136 Saint points. He's only at the late-stage star realm? He has twice as many Saint points as we do. What a monster! But even if he has twice as many Saint points, it's still far from reaching the level of a true god. His Saint power is comparable to a god's power. Long Tianqi and the rest, as well as the top 3 saints on the Saint talent roll, stared at Lin Chen in the extraterritorial battlefield in shock. This scene was too shocking to the mortal world. Lin Chen had embarked on a path that the human race had never imagined. Lin Chen's foundation was so strong that it was almost heaven-defying. This time, he had used the opportunity of eliminating the gods to break 10 Saint points consecutively. It was the moment when he was on par with a true god. However, it was as if he would not stop until he was strong enough. Lin Chen's Saint power was so boundless that it shocked the Wuji old man. He can still continue to break through? The stronger one's foundation, the more they needed to accumulate. For example, Lin Chen needed 5 billion high-grade Saint essences to advance from 61 Saint points to 62 Saint points. In that case, he would need 20 billion high-grade Saint essences to advance from 62 Saint points to 63 Saint points. Every time he advanced, the amount of Saint essences required would increase exponentially. Another 2 dragon roars resounded in the air as Lin Chen's cultivation broke through to the 69th and 70th Saint acupoints, both of which were opened. The consummation of the receiving star state. Every time a nascent star cultivator opened a Saint acupoint, their total basic Saint energy would increase by 20%. Lin Chen's life and death realm base Saint energy was at 26 million venerable energy, and 20% of it was 5.2 million venerable energy. Furthermore, he had also received a double boost from the mental cultivation method and a triple boost from supreme god possession. So he had a total of 28 million venerable energy, 5.2 million supreme force plus 28 million supreme force. In other words, every time Lin Chen opened a Na Xing Saint acupoint, he would gain 26 million venerable Saint energy. What kind of concept was that? It was equivalent to every time Lin Chen opened a Na Xing Saint cave, he would obtain the total amount of holy energy from the previous 60 Na Xing Saint caves. 10 Na Xing Saint caves would give him 260 million venerable energy. Adding on the life and death realm foundation, he would have a total of 286 million venerable energy. Such battle prowess was almost on par with Lin Chen when he was in the state of God Slayer. Boom, boom, boom. Lin Chen's Saint energy shone brightly, and 140 hexagonal starlight shone from his body. His Saint acupoints were like a sea of stars, exuding an endless amount of Saint energy. The consummation of the receiving star state had the battle prowess of a true god. Since the beginning of time, there was only one person like this. For those who had just entered the deity realm, their godly energy would be comparable to 100 million venerable energy, and they would be able to crush saint kings and reincarnation saints. After breaking through to the deity realm, the initial speed of accumulating godly energy would increase, and the 100 million venerable energy would increase rapidly until one's talent could no longer be cultivated. Normally, it would take countless eras for a living being to break through to the deity realm. But in the deity realm, it would only take a few hundred years to accumulate godly energy from 100 million venerable energy to 200 million venerable energy. This was the benefit of breaking through bottlenecks and limits. The current Lin Chun could completely wrestle with an early-stage true god. Finally, after reaching the perfect Na Xing saint realm, Lin Chen's saint energy essence poured into the 71st saint cave. But the 71st saint cave was like a pool of stagnant water. Even when Lin Chen's last bit of essence was converted into saint energy and poured in, there was no reaction. Sure enough, his foundation was too strong. Lin Chen's cultivation stopped at the perfect Na Xing saint realm, and he couldn't break through to the saint heart realm. Lin Chen sighed regretfully. It's a pity that I can't use such a precious treasure. This is probably what it feels like. It's like I've already married my wife, but I can't consummate my marriage even after taking off my pants. In fact, Lin Chen had the chance to break through to the Saint Heart realm because he had a peerless odd crystal. The energy of a peerless odd crystal could be said to be heaven-defying. The difficulty of giving birth to a peerless odd crystal in the three-dimensional universe was even more difficult than giving birth to a true god. But if he released a peerless odd crystal, Lin Chen didn't have absolute confidence in refining it. The Fire God Flame's odd crystal was a dropped attribute treasure and could be stored in the system space. Otherwise, even with Lin Chen's current strength, he didn't have absolute confidence in suppressing the Fire God Flame's odd crystal. If he couldn't suppress it and released it without permission, it could burn the sacred boundary in minutes. The most terrifying thing was that the odd crystal that had a chance of dropping wasn't like the Godhead. It was a non-system special treasure and could only be temporarily stored once. Once it was taken out of the system space, it couldn't be put back. If I can't refine it and can't put it back in the system space, this thing will be like a large burning nebula. Whoever gets close to it will be in trouble. If I can't refine it and can't take it away, then it'll be really bad luck. Lin Chen retracted his thought. He decided that before he had absolute confidence in refining it, he wouldn't touch the peerless odd crystal. Lin Chen looked around his body. His saint meridians were full, his saint spirit was like a dragon, and his saint body was immortal. My body refinement strength, with 500% flesh shell awakening, has finally broken through the limit of 60 million venerable power. My primordial spirit realm is at the peak of the late-stage primordial spirit realm. I'm only one step away from perfection. No matter how difficult it was for humans to refine their bodies, Lin Chen relied on the qi and blood energy dropped by the 7 demon emperors to forcefully push his body refinement realm up. However, the main force absorbing the qi and blood attribute was Lin Chen's Dragon King. The Dragon King's body was now in a state of seclusion. Its foundation had skyrocketed to the realm of 99 million Saint Dragon Meridians. In Lin Chen's Dantian, the Dragon King's appearance transformed into an ancient dragon in the form of dragon qi and shrunk into a ball. In its body, there were countless complicated Saint Dragon Meridians with intertwined root. It was like a gathering of Saint Dragons. The dragon breath was like rivers flowing into the sea, flowing along the Saint Dragon Meridians and slowly condensing into a Divine Dragon Meridian. If the Divine Dragon Meridian was formed, it would be the descent of a divine dragon. Lin Chen was satisfied. The qi and blood of the 7 demon emperors are indeed extraordinary. I just have to wait quietly for the Dragon King to come out of seclusion. Lin Chen opened the system. Host's attribute panel has been automatically upgraded. Host: Lin Chen Cultivation, 7th Heaven Full Circle, High-Grade Saint Essence, 35,205 billion points. Limit: 60 million venerable power, flesh shell awakening plus 500%. High-grade Saint Blood Chi, 123,024 billion points. High-grade Saint Spiritual Power, 12 million points. Peak of late-stage Primordial Spirit Realm. High-grade Saint Cultivation Technique Soul Essence, 101 million points. High-grade Saint Rune Energy, 425 million points. High-grade Saint Heavenly Tao Points, 9 million. Saint Talent Points, 2 million points. Mid-grade Set Essence, 0 points. High-grade Strengthening Points, 2 million points. High-grade Saint Elemental Energy, 141 million Fire Element, 420,000 Earth Element, 580,000 Wood Element, 360,000 Metal Element, 156 million Water Element, 580,000 Lightning Element, 480,000 Wind Element, 580,000 Light Element, 580,000 Darkness Element. Set Column: Ultimate Golden War God Set. Charge 0%, Ultimate Wind God Set, to be unlocked. Special Treasure: Peerless Fire God Flame Odd Crystal, Random Orange Grade Alchemy Handprint, to be unlocked. Divine Spark Column: Divine Elephant Divine Spark, Cooling Down, Immortal Divine Spark, Divine Spark Fragment, 1/6. His attributes had skyrocketed. This time, all of Lin Chen's attributes had been automatically upgraded to a higher level. Every attribute had increased by more than 10,000 times or even 100,000 times. Whoosh! Lin Chen flew over and said in surprise, "Big brother, you broke through again. You're too monstrous, I can't catch up to you at all." Lin Chen smiled. "It's okay, your potential is not inferior to mine. You'll catch up to me sooner or later. Don't be discouraged." Lin Chen chuckled. "Then what are we going to do next?" Lin Chen smiled. "Is there a need to ask? Of course, we're going to greet our allies, the dragon race." Greet. Speaking of the dragon race, the two brothers smiled. "Lin Chen, there's a good youth who talks about civilization and sets a new trend, Lin Can. That's right, it's me." Chapter 1864. Dragon Race, Dragon Realm. The 5 divine dragons had returned to the deepest part of the dragon realm. The dragon kings, first elder, and other dragon race experts were in charge of mobilizing the army to recuperate. There was no need for them to worry. At a peak, the 5 divine dragons were in seclusion in their own planes. "It's been a long time since we last met. The scenery of the dragon realm is so beautiful. Hey, divine dragons, it's been a long time since we last met. How did you all become more handsome?" A voice transmission broke the silence. Imperial God Dragon opened his eyes from his seclusion. His dragon eyes were filled with dragon chi, and his expression changed slightly. Lin Chen. He actually went to the dragon race personally. It seemed that things were not simple. Imperial God Dragon stepped on a golden dragon chi and appeared in the dragon realm. He looked at Lin Chen, who was standing on the peak of the mountain, and squeezed out a smile. "Little friend Lin Chen, you've recovered from your injuries so quickly? It's worthy of celebration." Imperial God Dragon congratulated. Lin Chen narrowed his eyes and smiled innocently. "Yes, I have always been known for my endurance. How can these small injuries affect me? Today, I'm here to fulfill my promise to the dragon race. Divine dragons, come out and talk." Imperial God Dragon's heart shook. He smiled happily and said, "Lin Chen, you mean?" Lin Chen smiled and said, "Once a word is spoken, it's hard to take it back. Look at my character. Would I lie to you?" As soon as he said that, 4 divine dragon auras appeared. The ancient desolate azure dragon was the last to appear. When he looked at Lin Chen, he was slightly wary. The atmosphere among the 5 divine dragons was a little strange. The extreme hell water divine dragon, who was wearing an azure palace dress, smiled sweetly. "Your Excellency Lin Chen, we're not in a hurry to pay you. It's best that you adjust your condition first. Lin Chen smiled and cupped his fists. Thank you for your concern, Senior. I'll talk to the Extreme Hell Water Dragon race in a few days and invite you to become the guardian dragons of the Ice Heart Palace. It's a win-win situation for both sides. The beautiful woman beamed. Then I'll thank you in advance for helping the little fellows in the clan. Lin Chen changed the topic. I, Lin Chen, have always repaid kindness with kindness and revenge with revenge. I have never mistreated my friends or my loyal followers. Towards those who threaten me, I've always been tough to the end and have never been soft-hearted. All the divine dragons were stunned. Lin Chen flicked his finger, and a beam of elemental light shot into the Extreme Hell Water Divine Dragon's forehead. Buzz. Space rippled as the Extreme Hell Water Divine Dragon's pure draconic might skyrocketed. Host has activated attribute transfer function, transferring and strengthening attributes to a specific divine dragon target. Bloodline +1 successful. Consumed 3,000 saint-level heavenly path points, 40,000 advanced strengthening points. To strengthen the bloodline of the divine dragon, Lin Chen had to spend 3,000 saint-grade heavenly Tao points and 40,000 high-grade strengthening points. That was equivalent to 300 billion heavenly Tao points and 4 trillion intermediate strengthening points. To the Lin Chen before the battle, this number would basically deplete all his attribute points. But to the current him, it was a piece of cake. The Extreme Hell Water Divine Dragon's eyes glowed as she exclaimed, My divine dragon bloodline has improved. The expressions of the mystical dragons changed abruptly as they turned pale with fright. They could feel that the Extreme Hell Water Divine Dragon's bloodline quality had improved by 10%, and her potential had increased. Bloodline quality was like a container, while strength was like the water in the container. The bigger the container, the more water it could hold. The Extreme Hell Water Divine Dragon's container was almost filled to the brim with water. Now that the container had expanded, her cultivation could take another step forward. Lin Chen smiled. I've said it before. I won't mistreat my friends. Before the divine dragons could rejoice, they saw Lin Chen's figure appear beside Lin Can. Their expressions changed slightly. Lin Can smiled mockingly. But my big brother is not so polite to his enemies. As soon as he said that, Lin Chen's gaze locked onto the ancient azure dragon. The latter's expression changed slightly, and his scalp went numb. Ancient azure dragon, I've let bygones be bygones when your clone attacked me after I entered the divine dragon ruins. I could even help you improve your bloodline if you helped the human race. Lin Chen's gaze darkened. But you're up to no good. I've already given the dragon race a chance, and you still dare to target the human race. Rumble. The sky in the dragon world shook violently, and Lin Chen's aura skyrocketed. The ancient azure dragon's eyes flashed with malice. He hurriedly said, Lin Chen, there's a misunderstanding between us. I didn't attack you or your people, did I? You've only misinterpreted my words. Yu Tian and the rest can testify that we didn't mean to threaten you. I helped the human race and blocked the demon emperor and the honorable elders of the demonic tribe for you. You're burning the bridge after crossing it. At this moment, Imperial God Dragon was about to speak. Lin Chen sneered. What if I wait for you, old bastard, to make a move? Damn it, do you think it's my first day out here? Imperial God Dragon was about to step forward to make peace, but the Extreme Hell Water Divine Dragon raised a hand to stop him. I advise you not to act rashly. If you make the wrong choice again, the problem won't be that simple. Imperial God Dragon's eyes flickered, and he sighed in the end. Rumble. Seeing that there was no room for negotiation, and seeing Lin Chen's murderous intent skyrocketing, the ancient azure dragon made a preemptive strike. Dragon breath storm shot out from his finger, and countless storm-rending blades wrapped around it, aiming at Lin Chen. Scorching flames surged in his palm, and 9 swirling fire dragons surrounded it. Lin Chen struck toward the sky. 9 extinction sky burning palm. The 9 swirling fire dragons collided with the ancient azure dragon's divine dragon rending blades, shaking the sky of the dragon world. Bang! Bang! The 4 divine dragons all avoided the center of the explosion. Lin Chun and the ancient azure dragon took 4 steps back. Were they evenly matched? No, the ancient azure dragon's scales were slightly burned, but Lin Chen was unscathed, and his breathing was steady. Your strength? The ancient azure dragon's eyes narrowed. This guy's strength had skyrocketed. After that battle, he had recovered from his injuries at a godly speed. The ancient azure dragon was knowledgeable, so he was not surprised. But how could his strength have increased by leaps and bounds? Recovering from injuries and skyrocketing strength were 2 completely different things. Based on the battle in the extraterrestrial battlefield, he could fight against the gods only because of various external forces and trump cards. But now, he did not use any of those methods at all. He had used his own strength to defeat a divine dragon of his generation. With my strength, isn't it normal for me to beat you up? I haven't even used my instant light split shadows talent yet. Lin Chen smiled casually. Stepping on the clouds, he flew into the sky in a flash. This time, he was truly moving at godly speed. With Lin Chen's current foundation, his movement technique was not inferior to the God-Slayer state when he went all out. Azure Dragon inhales aura. The ancient azure dragon used his dragon aura to protect his body. A sword gleam flashed, and his dragon claws appeared. In an instant, he clawed at Lin Chen's heaven-splitting sword style. Chi. The sword gleam forced the azure dragon's claws back and cut through his dragon aura. Lin Chen was not afraid of the ancient azure dragon at all. Move after move, his attacks were endless and boundless. The pressure was overwhelming. Lin Chen completely treated the ancient azure dragon as a sparring partner after breaking through to the next cultivation level to hone his moves. Chapter 1865. The primordial azure dragon could not withstand Lin Chen's ferocious attacks in its human form. Seeing how ferocious Lin Chen's attacks were, the primordial azure dragon had no intention of negotiating. The dragon aura in its body surged, and streaks of dragon aura shot out. Boom, boom, boom. A dragon's roar shook the heavens, and the dragon god shone brightly. When the primordial azure dragon revealed its true form, its scales and feathers covered the entire sky of the dragon realm. The primordial azure dragon revealed its true form to fight Lin Chen. Lin Chen smiled. That's how it should be. Reveal your true form. Otherwise, it won't be fun. The primordial azure dragon sneered. I don't believe that you can use that divine armor again after the great battle of the gods. Lin Chen said, stop flattering yourself. Do I need to use the war god armor to deal with you? 1 man and 1 dragon, the battle became even more intense. The primordial azure dragon frantically blocked Lin Chen's attack. When Lin Chen used his instant light, shadows talent, all his attacks were split into 5, and the primordial azure dragon was instantly at a disadvantage. If Lin Chen did not use instant light shadows, it would be fine. The primordial azure dragon could still use its dragon god armor and its powerful dragon god body to fight with him for a while. However, once instant light shadows was used, its combat power skyrocketed, and a sense of oppression descended. This was one of Lin Chen's killer moves that he dared to use against multiple demon emperors. The primordial azure dragon could not withstand it at all. Imperial, we are both primordial azure dragons. Why are you so indifferent? Are you really willing to bow down to this human? The primordial azure dragon roared. The imperial divine dragon was calm, but there was a hint of struggle in the depths of his eyes. The primordial azure dragon saw that the situation was not good and cursed. F***ck, forget it. Forget it. I won't fight with you. I can't beat you. Do you think you can stop me? The desolate antiquity azure dragon roared at the sky. As the dragon's roar reverberated, numerous desolate antiquity dragon tombs rose up outside the dragon world. Countless ancient dragon phantoms reverberated in the void. Lin Chen instantly felt an unprecedented sense of oppression. He even sensed a familiar aura. It was the draconic aura of the ancient Taishi dragon and the ancient Aeon dragon. The extreme hell water divine dragon frowned. This guy activated the celestial dragon realm without permission. All Fire Shenlong immediately turned to Royal God Dragon and asked in shock, "Why didn't you stop him?" Imperial Divine Dragon fell silent for a moment before saying, "My bottom line is that I can choose not to help the Blue Dragon, but I can't stop the Divine Dragon of my clan from wanting to live." The sacred boundary of the human race was protected by the myriad manifestations of gods. The dragon realm naturally had a natural protective barrier, the Heavenly Dragon Barrier. The Heavenly Dragon Barrier was a protective barrier that generations of divine dragons and ancient dragons had left behind with a trace of their power. In terms of overall power, its foundation was in no way inferior to the human race's myriad manifestations of gods. Every mystical dragon had absolute control over the Heavenly Dragon Barrier. Bang! 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 Streaks of ancient dragon aura came crashing down like giant dragons falling from the sky, crashing into Lin Chen's attack. Not only was Lin Chen unable to break out of the encirclement to chase after the ancient dragon, but he was also pushed back. Especially the ancient Aeon dragon's draconic aura, which was simply unpredictable. It crossed time and space to hit Lin Chen. There was no trace of it at all. The ancient Taishi dragon's draconic aura was indestructible. Lin Chen had to use all his strength to divert its attack trajectory. Is this how Yao dealt with the human race's myriad manifestations of gods when she was at her peak? That's amazing. Looks like my cultivation base and combat strength can't compare to Yao at her peak. Lin Chen looked around. The majestic ancient dragon had completely flown out of the dragon realm and was about to fly to another galaxy. Failure seemed to be a foregone conclusion. Use the 9 tribulation star? Even if it penetrates the Heavenly Dragon Barrier, its power will be greatly reduced. I might not be able to kill it. Use annihilation. Starburst, the range is too big. It will affect the other dragons in the dragon realm. Lin Chen narrowed his eyes. There was no way he would let the ancient dragon go. Lin Chen never showed mercy to his enemies. If this fellow dared to have any ill intentions, he would destroy it. A divine dragon's breath could wipe out all the living beings in the sacred boundary. A divine dragon with an unknown background was too big of a threat. Since Lin Chen had made his move, he had to eliminate the source of the problem. Let's try the new godhead. After binding it, I'll use the 9 tribulations star to blast it. A dark light circulated in Lin Chen's palm, and the godhead shard flashed. Lin Chen used his movement technique to dodge the Heavenly Dragon Barrier's attack. He aimed his palm at the ancient desolate azure dragon and clenched it. Buzz! The distant space-time instantly exploded. The 4 divine dragons felt their scalps go numb. A terrifying pressure came from above the 9 heavens. A gigantic pitch-black barrier suddenly appeared in the galaxy outside the dragon realm. It was in the shape of a cube and instantly enveloped the ancient dragon. Consumed 19,000 Saint Heavenly Tao points to activate Godhead, divine creation. What is this? The ancient dragon was bewildered. Rumble. Chi. Inside the pitch-black cube, space-time instantly collapsed. The terrifying gravity distorted the dimensions and compressed space-time. The ancient dragon's body instantly crumbled. Its dragon scales shattered, its flesh was crushed, and its divine blood splattered everywhere. Rumble. The cube enchantment that was shrouded in a dark brilliance suddenly shrank and became smaller. The ancient dragon's body was instantly crushed into a ball and shrunk by hundreds of thousands of times. It was crushed alive and became a pile of flesh and blood in the blink of an eye. After the pitch-black barrier shrunk and crushed the ancient dragon, it slowly disappeared, leaving behind a ball of elemental light. The 4 divine dragons gasped in horror. A cold glint shot straight to the top of their heads. The primordial azure dragon didn't even have the chance to scream before it perished. Even Lin Chen was dumbfounded. Dead? A divine dragon of a generation died just like that? F***ck me. This new godhead. It's too F***king powerful. Lin Chen had planned to use this move to delay or exhaust the ancient dragon before releasing the 9 tribulations star to break through the heavenly dragon barrier and try to end its life. He did not expect to crush the ancient dragon with one move. Not crush to death, but crush to pieces. These were 2 completely different concepts. The latter was to completely destroy the divine dragon's defenses. It was much more difficult than killing the divine dragon himself. The divine dragon's body spanned the heavens and earth. Just one dragon scale alone was the size of a small continent. The divine dragon's body could be said to be the life form with the strongest vitality and tenacity. The power of the Godhead, divine creation fragment, was enough to crush a divine dragon's body. He actually has another killer move. The all-flames divine dragon's eyes trembled in fear. Her respect and fear for Lin Chen went up another level. This young man was like a bottomless pit with endless tricks up his sleeves. At this moment, Imperial Divine Dragon waved his hand and removed the heavenly dragon barrier. He cupped his fists at Lin Chen and said seriously, "Lin Chen, I can't help the human race fight against the divine dragons of my race. This is my bottom line. Now that the primordial azure dragon has perished in your hands, it is true that I am a little shaken by his suggestion." He took a deep breath and looked straight at Lin Chen as if he had made a major decision. "So, if you want to eliminate us, we can only fight." Chapter 1866. Although it was said to be a battle, the heavenly dragon barrier had already been removed. Imperial God Dragon seemed to be able to see through the essence of things. Lin Chen did not answer immediately. Instead, he flicked his finger and his attributes flashed. Boom, boom, boom. Apart from the Water Divine Dragon, the remaining 3 Divine Dragons' bloodline auras skyrocketed. This is... Imperial God Dragon was shocked. Lin Chen smiled casually. "I've said that I never mistreat my friends. I'll take responsibility for my own actions. I won't hold the descendants of the ancient Azure Dragon accountable, even if they hate me. You should know my position, Lin Chen. I have no intention of being the overlord of this world. The dragon race will exist forever. Do whatever you want. As long as you don't challenge my bottom line, I'm not interested in interfering with your affairs." Imperial God Dragon took a deep breath. "Thank you for your magnanimity," the Extreme Hell Water Divine Dragon said seriously. "Don't worry, Your Excellency Lin Chen. I'll keep an eye on the ancient Azure Dragon race for you. I won't let them endanger the sacred boundary." Lin Chen gave her a thumbs up and smiled. "Let's go." Lin Chen stepped into the air and left with Lin Can. He also took the numerous attribute light balls dropped by the ancient Azure Dragon along the way. Obtained 400 million high-tier Saint-Tier blood essence, 300,000 high-tier Saint-Tier Earth-type energy, 1,290 Saint-Tier heavenly path points. A large amount of blood essence attributes flowed into the Dragon King and Lin Chen's bodies, who were cultivating in seclusion. Their body-tempering strength rose again. Lin Chen was calm and collected. He tore through the void and advanced while absorbing the attribute. Lin Chen said, "Ah Can, bring me to a place." Without another word, Lin Can brought Lin Chen to the destination at full speed. In a demonic chi vortex in the desolate demon world. This was the place where Lin Chen had condensed his acupoints and broken through consecutively. Back then, she was still here with Lin Chen. If not for her, Lin Chen might not have been able to escape. Thinking about the girl's departure, Lin Chen's heart ached and he sighed. "Even if I have the strength of a god, I can't let the person I treasure return to my side." Lin Chen's eyes fell on the center of the demonic energy vortex. There was a pitch-black space vortex there. It was very deep, in a state of infinite distortion like a black hole. In fact, it was even more terrifying than an ordinary space-time black hole. Lin Chen narrowed his eyes. 4 pieces of scarlet silk flashed in his hand. Crimson Divine 7 Damask. This item was something that the mysterious Lin Xingchen had been searching for, and it had reacted to this place. Previously, when his acupoint exploded, Lin Chen had already sensed a reaction from the Scarlet God Damask. Perhaps the thing hidden in the darkness had something to do with the Scarlet Divine Damask. It was even related to the War of the 9 Clans. Perhaps the answer to the Scarlet God Damask lies within that black hole. Lin Chen frowned. However, even with his current strength, Lin Chen was not confident that he could withstand the tidal force of the space-time black hole. He could faintly sense that his life would be in danger if he entered rashly. If he barged in, he would most likely die. Otherwise, if the War of the 9 Clans could be solved by brute force, why would there be so many godly state warriors fighting? There were more godly state warriors back then. If they could force their way in, they would have joined forces to do so. Even though Lin Chen's strength had skyrocketed, he had not reached the point where he could beat all the godly state warriors back then. Unless I can wear the Aries set, there is no way I can force my way in. The Aries set's energy had been used up. Not to mention that Lin Chen's current physique had not reached 100 million honorable power. Even if he had 100 million honorable power, he would still need to recharge before he could use it. After arriving here and taking a look, Lin Chen gave up on the thought in his heart. Lin Ken was puzzled. Big brother. Lin Chen smiled. Let's go back to the sacred boundary. It was not the time to touch on this secret. At least, he did not have the strength to eat it yet. Sooner or later, Lin Chen would come back and reveal the final secret of the War of the 9 Clans. As soon as Lin Chen returned to the sacred boundary, Bai Ruoyan transmitted a message to Lin Chen. Luo Yaoer wanted to see him, the same place. Strange Domains border. Lin Chen came to the wooden house. Luo Yaoer stood in front of the cliff. Today, she was wearing a black dress. As her black hair swayed, she was as quiet as a rose in the night, waiting for Lin Chen. Both her injuries and her cultivation base had completely recovered. Lin Chen rushed up the cliff. Before he could say anything, Luo Yaoer spoke first. One of the human clan's gods, the Golden God, his biological brother, Golden Feather God, was a genius of the human clan. After becoming a god, he wanted to create a subsidiary race of the human clan to fight against the naturally powerful demon clan. Then, there was our demon clan. Lin Chen was stunned. He found that Luo Yaoer's brows were sad. Luo Yaoer smiled sadly. Golden Feather God created the demon clan, but the human clan never ended the demon clan. He even fell in love with my clan's ancestors, but abandoned the demon clan in the War of the 9 Clans, joined the War of the 9 Clans, and finally died in the starry sky. After losing the protection of a true god, the demon clan became the most competitive clan in the human clan, and was once wandering in the midst of destruction. And Golden Feather God never thought of guiding the demon clan on their own path. The human clan only brought us hatred. The demon clan's ancestors, after going through thousands of difficulties, brought the demon clan out of the human clan's jurisdiction. After that, the demon clan and the human clan continued to kill and hate each other. As the empress who was chosen to be the leader of the demon clan, my hands were stained with the blood of innocent humans. I don't care about that. Lin Chen interrupted Luo Yaoer and rushed forward to hug her. It's all in the past, okay? Lin Chen said softly. Luo Yaoer raised her charming face. Lin Chen's heart tightened. Do you know, after I recovered my memories with you, the people I killed flashed through my mind all the time. Lin Chen said in a deep voice, that's because you were affected by the will of the ancestor. Luo Yaoer shook her head and said softly, what about the matters of the mortal world? I broke through the holy prison, and that was my own initiative. You should be very clear about how many criminals from the holy prison have flowed to the mortal world. Lin Chen's mind trembled. He had personally witnessed how the criminals of the holy prison had ravaged the 9 regions. If it wasn't for him, Ning Qingxian would also be one of the victims. After experiencing torture that was worse than death, she would be tortured until she died and turned into a statue. And before Ning Qingxian, there were already countless proud daughters of heaven in the 9 regions who had suffered this calamity. The pain, suffering, sadness, and anger before their deaths, Lin Chen could feel the suffocating despair through the statue. If a criminal from the holy prison were to enter a mortal world, how much damage would it cause to the mortal world? It was enough to endanger trillions of mortals. Countless people of the human race would lose their lives that should have belonged to them. Lin Chen hugged her even tighter, and his eyes were bloodshot. I don't care. If we're talking about killing people, the number of enemies I've killed is not small. If anyone in this world wants to punish you, I'll be the first to kill them. Suddenly, Lin Chen realized that Luo Yao Er's body was especially cold. It wasn't the coldness of the temperature, but the coldness of the lack of vitality. Lin Chen's mouth trembled. Yao Er you, Luo Yao Er caressed his face, and her smile was beautiful and determined. How can I be at ease with my sins? Chapter 1867. My demonic heart and true body are already elsewhere. Boom! Monstrous anger soared into the sky, and the winds and clouds in the sacred boundary instantly changed. Lin Chen grabbed Luo Yao Er and glared at her. What are you doing? I won't allow you to do anything that endangers your life. Luo Yao Er shook her head and held Lin Chen's hand. With a flick of her finger, space distorted, and Luo Yao Er gradually turned transparent. Luo Yao Er held Lin Chen's hand and entered the distorted space. When the two of them appeared again, Lin Chen sensed that he had entered a brand new plane. This was a place he had never been to before. Under the starry sky, illusory white fog filled the air. Lin Chen's cultivation and primordial spirit seemed to be sealed here, and he couldn't use them. Luo Yao Er said softly, "This is the boundary of the universe outside the divine river Starfield. It's one of the few divine powers that connects to the four-dimensional universe. It's one of the unshakable places in this universe. The ancestors of the demonic tribe had once explored this area." She pointed into the distance. At the end of the white fog was a huge stone tablet that connected heaven and earth. It reached the 9 heavens, and one couldn't see the end. Lin Chen vaguely saw the words on the stone tablet, Reincarnation Tablet. Luo Yao Er's figure became more and more illusory. All living beings will eventually enter the cycle of reincarnation. Even gods can't break it. All living things that have died will be guided here by the four-dimensional godly power before they reincarnate. After saying that, she pointed to the reincarnation tablet in the barrier. A figure knelt in front of the reincarnation tablet. It was Luo Yao Er's true body. Her black hair was like a waterfall as she knelt in front of the reincarnation tablet. Her fingers were interlocked, and her eyes were tightly shut. Wisps of light flew out of Luo Yao Er's delicate body and merged into the reincarnation tablet. What? Lin Chen rushed out of the barrier and looked at Luo Yao Er, his heart palpitating. Lin Chen could feel that the light that was being extracted was the light of her life. It was extremely slow, but he could clearly sense that her life was weakening. There would be a day when it would all flow away. It turned out that the reason why Luo Yao Er, who had returned to the Devil tribe after the great battle of the gods, was to use her own cultivation and life to enter this place. Lin Chen was instantly filled with regret. Why didn't he realize it earlier and stop her earlier? Luo Yao, who was beside Lin Chen, smiled sweetly. A sage of the demon-human race found a way to enter the reincarnation heavenly steel. As long as a god enters the barrier, the reincarnation heavenly steel will automatically absorb the life force of the god. I will repent for my sins with my life. The humans who died because of me and the humans who lost their lives because of the war with the demon tribe will obtain my life force from the reincarnation tablet. After reincarnation, they will become geniuses with excellent luck and obtain a different life. This is the only way I can atone for my sins. Luo Yao cupped his cheek. It's so great to have met you. No. Lin Chen glared at her, his eyes looking as if he wanted to devour her. This was the first time Luo Yao had seen him like this. If you do this, you will most likely lose your life. You want me to watch from the sidelines. This is countless times worse than killing me. Luo Yao said softly, if I really lose my life in the end, it proves that my sins are grave. Lin Chen grabbed her cold jade hand and shouted coldly, no one can judge you. If you insist on committing suicide, then I will break this cycle. Fool! Wouldn't this be an imbalance in the cycle of reincarnation? How can there be any laws of heaven and earth? Luo Yao's consciousness gradually became transparent and dissipated. Remember to wait for me. Wait for me to wash away my sins. When I can be with you with a clear conscience, I will make up for these 10,000 years of longing. No. Yao. Lin Chen burst out a hysterical cry. Luo Yao's figure flew into the sky. Only the main body that was silent in the reincarnation heavenly steel gradually offered its life force. Lin Chen stood in place with a dull gaze, as if a large piece of his heart was empty. After an unknown period of time, Lin Chen clenched his fists and turned to look at the reincarnation heavenly steel. I won't let you do such a stupid thing. This thing can seal my cultivation, but it can't seal my ability. If the runes don't work, then I will use the divine core. If the divine core doesn't work, then I will use everything I have. If the cycle of reincarnation was broken, then the three-dimensional universe would be forever imbalanced, and no new humans would descend. System, can I use my talent here? A system replies, yes, you can. However, it is limited to the talent that the host can use in the three-dimensional universe. There is four-dimensional divine power in the barrier, so some talents cannot be used in the fourth dimension. Can I use it to bring her into the hyperspace? A talent cannot be used. What about fulgurating shadows? Put me in, I will replace her. A talent cannot be used. Bang! Lin Chen punched the barrier, and the anger in his eyes grew stronger. Then I will wait for the divine core to recover and flatten this place. Brother Lin Chen. A cold and pleasant voice interrupted Lin Chen's anger. A beautiful white-clothed figure bathed in milky white holy fire descended. She was as beautiful as a fairy and peerless in her generation. Lin Chen was shocked. Sister. Sister Ruoyan. Bai Ruoyan held his hand and said gently, don't be angry. Respect her choice, okay? I can't just stand by and watch. No, you can't. Bai Ruoyan hugged him. I don't want you to stand by and watch. I want you to rest. Lin Chen was stunned. Bai Ruoyan comforted Lin Chen with a gentle voice. Even if you can break the reincarnation heavenly steel, will she really be willing to go with you? If you break the cycle, you will only make her live forever with self-blame. Do you want her to live like this? If you do this, won't you be torturing her? Sister Ruoyan, Lin Chen's anger gradually subsided. Was breaking the reincarnation heavenly steel really what Yao wanted? Luo Yao didn't directly tell Lin Chen. She left the decision to Lin Chen. But I can't put Yao's life in this unknown. What if her life? You are afraid something will happen to her, right? Bai Ruoyan voiced Lin Chen's concern. This was the first time Lin Chen was at a loss. Sister Ruoyan, what should I do? Should he respect the choice of his loved one? Or should he satisfy his own selfish desires and find a way to break the reincarnation heavenly steel? Bai Ruoyan smiled sweetly. She raised her slender finger and flicked Lin Chen's forehead. The fairy smiled. When did you become so stupid? Or do you like her so much that your usually cunning brain has become dull, little thief? Lin Chen stared blankly. The fairy said, "Why don't you just go and become stronger? Become strong enough to easily change the reincarnation heavenly steel, become strong enough to control the world's reincarnation. At that time, if you want to atone for her sins and protect her, won't it be easy?" Boom. Lin Chen's mind was suddenly enlightened. Truly, cunning for a lifetime, foolish for a moment. Why didn't he think of this? Lin Chen clapped his hands in praise. Damn! Why didn't I think of this? Enough, I'm going to the God realm in a moment. The fairy knocked his head. Are you crazy? How long has it been quiet? You're messing around again. Bai Ruoyan looked at Luo Yao inside the reincarnation heavenly steel. Through the eternal sacred flame, at the rate her life is fading away, her life won't be in danger for at least 10,000 years. You can make all the necessary preparations before heading to the God realm. Also, everyone is still waiting for you to fulfill your promise. Fulfill my promise? Lin Chen stared blankly. Are you still going to marry her? The fairy glanced at him. Yes. Chapter 1868. Before leaving, Lin Chen looked at Luo Yao in the reincarnation steel. Yao, I respect your choice, but I promise I won't let you fall into any danger. Seeing that Lin Chen was once again full of energy, Bai Ruoyan let out a sigh of relief. She looked at the reincarnation steel in the barrier and Luo Yao's figure. I've fulfilled my promise to you, so please don't let anything happen to you. Bai Ruoyan and Luo Yao had made a promise. What Bai Ruoyan didn't tell Lin Chen was that Luo Yao could control the speed of her life to save more people. She also didn't tell him that she could bring Lin Chen into the reincarnation steel with the eternal sacred flame. The eternal sacred flame created all things and could see through life and death. It could also enter the reincarnation steel. However, she promised Luo Yao that she wouldn't tell Lin Chen about this. Taking Luo Yao away from the reincarnation steel would only make her live with guilt and self-blame forever. I've fulfilled my promise to you to take care of Lin Chen, so please fulfill your promise to me. Don't let little brother Lin Chen lose his mind and fall into madness because of you. Bai Ruoyan used the eternal sacred flame to send a message into the reincarnation steel. Luo Yao's eyebrows twitched as if she heard her voice. When Bai Ruoyan left with Lin Chen, the reincarnation steel returned to its eternal silence, as if it had always been like this. The only difference was that there was an additional figure of repentance. After that, a year passed in the blink of an eye. In a year, the sacred boundary was reborn. First, two super-sects appeared in the sacred boundary, the Divine Flame Palace and the Ice Heart Palace. The two super-existences that were above the 9th grade sects not only worked together with the demon tribe to build a peaceful area as the leading force, but also worked together with the experts of the dragon tribe and a group of auspicious beasts. Their foundation was so strong that it was simply heaven-defying. These two sects had become the true overlords of the human race. Next, the Blacksmith Guild reopened. In the past, when the gods ruled, the Blacksmith Guild was suppressed, and everything related to the forging and creation of divine weapons was forbidden. It was very simple. A divine artifact that was forged would have the power to resist the gods. Once a divine artifact had recognized a master, it would be very difficult to change its master unless the previous master erased the imprint. Thus, the gods wanted to eliminate all elements that could resist the god. After the start of the new era, the new order of the sacred boundary would be established. Not only would it not suppress the blacksmiths, but it would also greatly develop them. Due to Lin Chen's earlier frenzied attempt to break down sacred artifacts, the sacred boundary was in a state of extreme lack of sacred artifacts. The status of a weapon forging master rose along with the tide, even surpassing that of an alchemist. Secondly, there was a change in the genius rankings. After gaining providence, the living beings began to show great potential, and geniuses appeared in large numbers. The number of names on the genius ranking had increased from 100,000 to 200,000. Furthermore, the number of spots would continue to increase in the future. The influence of Providence would have a profound impact on the human race. When Providence belonged to all living beings, the seeds of the plant of Providence increased, and the resources produced by the plant of Providence were simply outrageous. It was only after defeating the gods that the plant of Providence could produce so many resources. The resources produced by each plant of Providence were at least 10 times that of the era of the gods. One could imagine that just the abundant resources alone would be enough to create countless geniuses. In the future, the human race would enter an unprecedented period of rapid development. Lin Chen's stories and legends were circulating in the sacred boundary. There were merits and faults, praise and criticism. The Ice Heart Palace and Divine Flame Palace did not suppress these rumors. Whether they were right or wrong would be left to future generations to judge. The battle between the demon race and the human race continued, but this time, it was the human race that started to attack the demon race. The upper echelons of the dragon race and the human race had reached a peace agreement, but it was limited to the Dragon King and Saint King level powerhouses. The upper echelons would not interfere with the grievances of the lower echelons. 1 year in the sacred boundary was 1 month in the mortal world. The current 9 provinces continent was full of vitality and spirit chi. It was dozens of times stronger than the previous era. Heavenly Song Academy, a spirit mountain. Today, Bai Juanhao, who was wearing a green robe, held a communication token and sent a message. Firework Team 1, Team 3 and Team 9, please reply if you copy. Ready, we can take off at any time. Bai Juanhao raised his hand. Then release it for me. Welcome the guest. Swoosh, swoosh, bang, bang, bang. Countless streams of colorful holy light soared into the sky, exploding into brilliant fireworks of all colors. The entire academy was filled with gongs and drums, decorated with lanterns and colored banners. The academy was in a joyous mood. Today was the biggest event in Heavenly Song Academy, a joyous day from a certain arsonist. All of the people who had come had great backgrounds. Heavenly Song Academy, at the peak of the Spirit Mountain, the vice principal and principal were present at the same time. Their eyes were full of smiles. Class 60 SIXS Ing Liang and Yu Linlin were in charge of receiving the wedding invitations from the bottom of the Spirit Mountain. They announced the names of the distinguished guests. Pill Region's Elder Council's Chief Elder, Song Ilian, brings a sacred pill to congratulate the newlyweds on their happiness. Thousand Charm Palace's Palace Master brings 3 secret manuals to congratulate the newlyweds, Lin Chen, on improving their bed skills and having fun every night. Sword Region's Immemorial Sword City's Master brings a pair of happy swords to congratulate the newlyweds on their love for eternity. Purple Cloud King Valley brings 8 cultivation techniques to congratulate the newlyweds on their love for eternity. Black Horse Club's director brings a bag of jinkala to congratulate the newlyweds on improving their skills day after day. Dressed in a white robe, Ing Liang stood before the gate of the Spirit Mountain and announced the names of the famous people from the sacred boundary. The people around Heavenly Song Academy were dumbfounded. Only a small number of people knew about today's wedding. It wasn't announced to the spiritual state, nor was it publicized. It was the first time for most of the forces to see such a scene. They were all big shots from the sacred boundary. Which big shot from Heavenly Song Academy is getting married? Why is there such a scene? Even the big shots from the sacred boundaries Flame Region and Sword Region, are they so powerful? Damn. That person is so handsome. Is there anyone as handsome as him in the 9 states? What's his background? You don't even know who the director of the Black Horse Club is. No way. Even the director of the Black Horse Club, the king of single machines, is here. How shameless is this bridegroom? He even invited the king of single machines. More and more forces were paying attention to the banquet in the spiritual state. Every time they tried to get close to the banquet, they would be stopped by a group of mysterious masters. Their cultivation strength was close to the peak of the Saint Realm, scaring the masters of the 9 states. Princess Xingyue of the Dragon Clan of the Sacred Boundary, Princess Mu Tianqing of the Azure Dragon Clan, and Princess Luo Shueiyue of the Extreme Hell Water Dragon Clan? Dressed in a bright red short skirt, Yu Linlin looked at the invitations in her hand and then looked at the elegant and cold dragon princesses. She raised her eyebrows. Yu Linlin smiled slyly. Please come here. Class 66 has specially arranged a special seat for you 2 princesses. The 3 girls froze. They were here to attend the banquet and had special seats. When Yu Linlin led the 3 dragon princesses to the main hall, they saw that there were 2 seats in the banquet that were filled with all kinds of beauties. Yu Linlin smiled coquettishly. These are the special seats for the 3 of you. Luo Shueiyue was a meticulous person. She knew something was wrong with the seats. She looked at the beautiful figures. Some were so beautiful that even birds and beasts would fall from the sky. Some were so handsome that they were as beautiful as peaches and plums. Some were gentle and lovely, as delicate as autumn water. Some of them were tall, sexy, and charming. There were the princesses of the Holy Empire, Yu Qingli and Yu Yulan. The twin princesses of the Qin family in the Sacred Boundary, Qin Miao Qin Juyan, and Sun Yuer, the descendant of the Poison Saint. There were Yu Xian one of the top 10 beauties on the Demon Genius list, Luo Qingyu of the Luo family in the 9 states, Dan Qianqiu of the Danzhou ancient family, Murong Qingshu of the Murong family, and Han Ziyun of the Han family. Every single one of them was a beautiful woman. Their attire today was even more dazzling. They brought out their own charm even more, as if they were not going to lose out to the girls from other families. Luo Shueiyue asked curiously, "Little girl, what seat is this?" Yu Linlin stuck out her tongue mischievously and said with a sly smile, "Here. This is Class 60 SIX's special seat, the loser seat." Chapter 1869. The simple-minded Mu Tianqing asked in confusion, "Loser's seat?" Luo Shueiyue raised her eyebrows. She seemed to have realized something as a faint blush appeared on her cheeks. Lu Lin from Class 66 skillfully took out the introduction jade slip and smiled. The loser's seat is specially prepared for women who can't get the person they like. They are unwilling to let go of their thoughts and feelings for him, but it's difficult for them to get him in this life. In the end, they will be alone for the rest of their lives. When Princess Xingyu, who was still noble and elegant a moment ago, heard this, she immediately exploded and couldn't help but stomp her feet. Who likes him? I'm only here today to congratulate him on behalf of the Dragon Clan. After speaking, Princess Xingyu turned around and was about to sit in another seat. When Lu Lin closed the jade slip, she smiled faintly. When the banquet begins, our Class 66 will have a special method to deal with Lin Chen. It's only limited to the public loser's seat. Princess Xingyu's figure paused. Luo Shueiyue had already sat down in the loser's seat. Mu Tianqing also sat down obediently and dignified. Yu Linlin smiled and pulled Princess Xingyu back to her seat. He smiled and said, "Sister, since you're here to congratulate, isn't it the same no matter where you sit?" Princess Xingyu coughed lightly. "The seats over there seem to be full. Then I'll reluctantly squeeze in." Yu Linlin suppressed his laughter while Lu Lin smiled. Luo Shueiyue asked curiously, "By the way, how many brides are there today?" Lu Lin smiled and said, "Class Monitor Lin Chen originally decided on 3, but Sister Bai Ruoyan interrogated Class Monitor Lin Chen and revealed all his love debt. We have no way of knowing how many there are in the end." On the other side, many powerhouses had gathered. Ice Heart Palace, Divine Flame Palace, Sword Region's Ancient Sword City, Purple Cloud King Valley, Realm Tower, Pill Region's Elder Assembly, and many other rank 4 sects of the Mystic Domain. Those who came today were all familiar faces. Everyone discussed and looked forward to it. After 12 hours of VIP seating, the main event was finally about to begin. In the main hall, Su Lan and Su Lan from Class 66 stood together. They looked at each other and smiled. Then, the two girls said, "Let's welcome our most handsome groom." With a bang, fireworks exploded outside the hall. A tall figure was escorted into the hall by Gu Chunfeng and by Juanhao. He was wearing a red robe and a jade belt around his waist. His eyes were adorned with stars, and his eyebrows were sharp and straight. It was Lin Chen. "That's our academy's only orange rank senior. Awesome. He's on a completely different level compared to the seniors in the academy." "Oh my God, I'm in love." "Junior, calm down. Today is his senior's big day. Why are you throwing a tantrum at the bridegroom?" "Tisk, who said that I can't like the headmaster? Do you like her or do you like her?" A group of Heavenly Song Academy's genius students gathered outside the lobby, gazing curiously at Lin Chen as they chattered among themselves. The experts of the various forces were overjoyed. Today they had finally achieved their goal. However, the corner of Lin Chen's mouth was twitching, and his eyebrows were twitching. He was panicking, extremely panicking. This wedding was completely different from what he had imagined. I've never heard of a bridegroom who didn't even know how many women he was going to marry on his wedding day. Amazing! When Lin Chen returned to the 9 provinces, Bai Ruoyan had interrogated him and investigated his journey from the 9 provinces to the sacred boundary. Then, she chased him into the firmament tower and didn't let him out. Bai Ruoyan and Ling Yueqi were in charge of arranging Lin Chen's wedding. Until now, Lin Chen still didn't know how many women he was going to marry. Gu Chunfeng saw Lin Chen's appearance and tried his best to hold back his laughter. Bai Juanhao laughed mockingly. "Class monitor, I didn't expect you to have such a day. You went from the mortal realm to the sacred boundary and caused so many romantic debt. Did sister-in-law arrange it?" Gu Chunfeng gave him a thumbs up. "Class monitor, as expected of you. You didn't follow the routine when you got married." Seeing Lin Chen's appearance, everyone present was very curious. What would happen next? After Lin Chen was brought into the lobby at this time, the bright red curtain in the lobby was slightly pulled open, and countless distinguished guests present were looking forward to it. When the red curtain was pulled open, the first bride came into everyone's sight. Yun Manqing was wearing a beautiful pink and white dress. Her features were picturesque, and her delicate jade ears were adorned with luminous pearl earrings that sparkled under the moonlight. The gentleness between her eyebrows was moving, and her soft and boneless waist outlined a perfect curve. Her delicate and beautiful jade cheeks were dyed with a faint crimson color. She was indeed a national beauty. Immediately after, when the second bride appeared on the stage, everyone was stunned and gasped in amazement. The first thing that came into everyone's sight was her eyes that were as clear as autumn water. Shangguan Bihan was wearing an elegant and noble snow-white cheongsam. Her arms were white as snow, and she walked over gracefully. Her black hair was coiled up with a phoenix hairpin, and she wore a red veil that couldn't hide her eyes that were shining with a purple-gold light. She was as beautiful as a jade, and her dimples were beautiful and moving. She was like a princess from a neighboring country. Lin Chen's mouth was slightly open before Lin Chen could speak. The red curtain was pulled open again. The purple-white dress set off Yang Qing'er's lithe figure that was as light as a cloud. Her red lips were tender, and her teeth were as white as jade. Her snow-white hair was adorned with pearls and jade, and her white skin was flawless. Her autumn eyes were filled with tenderness. When she looked at the groom, her red lips parted slightly. "Do I look good like this?" Her voice was pleasant and graceful, like clouds and smoke, pleasant to the ear. This was Yang Qing'er's voice, and it was like smoke that tickled the tip of Lin Chen's heart. He was mesmerized and subconsciously said, "Very beautiful." Hearing this, Yang Qing'er was very shy. Her eyebrows drooped as she revealed a happy smile. At this time, the red curtain was pulled open again. A purple-black light appeared. Yan Xianyun was wearing a purple-black veil. Her eyes were like peach blossoms, and her eyebrows were like the distant mountains in March. Her lips were like cherry blossoms, and her collarbones were beautifully curved. Her skin was like ice and jade, and she was wearing a flowing cloud palace dress. Her figure was like a beautiful scenery, and her beauty was unparalleled. She was like a fairy under the night sky. The beauties at the loser table couldn't help but exclaim, "So beautiful, like a dark fairy, full of rebellious temptation that can make people turn the world upside down for her." As women, they could appreciate Yan Qianyun's charm even more. Lu Lin stared at Yan Qianyun and couldn't help but exclaim, "You really are the class leader," Lin Chen said in astonishment. Miss Qianyun?" Some of the guests laughed and said, "Our groom is treating her like an outsider. He still calls her Miss? Maybe it's because she wants to consummate her marriage that she's called a bride. Ha 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 ha." With this, the whole hall was filled with teasing laughter. Yan Qianyun pursed her lips and said shyly, "You have to be responsible for the arithmetic from before." Lin Chen scratched his head awkwardly. Something went wrong. When Lin Chen and Yan Qianyun competed in arithmetic, there was a section of arithmetic cultivation method recorded in the mental cultivation method of the 9 tribulations of Genesis. Lin Chen once divined that Yan Qianyun would have a bloody disaster, and the way to resolve it was to have physical interaction with Lin Chen. In fact, the bloody disaster in the divination happened in the great wilderness dragon clan of the 9 prefectures. It was just that Lin Chen rushed to the dragon clan in advance and rescued Yan Qianyun, preventing the disaster from happening. However, that arithmetic competition was imprinted in Yan Qianyun's heart, and she couldn't forget it for a long time. It wasn't over yet. After Yan Qianyun, Jian Qingqing was dressed in a red palace dress. Her figure was slender and exquisite, and her bright red hair reflected her bright red eyes. Her snow-white shoulders were slightly exposed, and her cold and beautiful snow was dyed with a faint crimson color. Her beautiful lips were raised in a happy arc, and her smile and frown were stunning. The 3 elders of ancient Sword City excitedly cheered for their granddaughter. Everyone laughed, and Jian Qingqing was so ashamed that he almost pulled out his sword. Then, Su Lan and Su Lan looked at each other and pulled open the red curtain. Finally, the 3 wives appeared. Chapter 1870. Out of thin air, the faint moonlight sprinkled down. When the beautiful and elegant fairy moved with light steps, her blue and white dress covered with frost fluttered like the clouds. Her beautiful shoulders were covered with a veil that was like smoke dyed with autumn frost. Her beautiful lips were a little red, and when her smile bloomed like a flower, she was as beautiful as Chang-yi in the Moon Palace. Lin Chen stared at Ling Yueqi, who was surrounded by mist and in a wedding dress. She was so beautiful that he was stunned. This was the ice and snow wedding dress that Lin Chen had once given her. Even the beauties present were stunned. How could there be such a peerless person in this world? The Su sisters pointed at Lin Chen's waist and snickered. Class President Lin, just looking at the first place isn't enough. Lin Chen turned around and saw a beautiful blue light. Her figure was as graceful as a swan, as slender as a willow tree. She quietly walked in front of Lin Chen. The blue-clothed fairy was like a quiet and elegant lotus. She was undisturbed by the mortal world, but her beauty was stunning. There were no gorgeous decorations, only a pair of delicate eyebrows. When she quietly looked at Lin Chen, her eyes were filled with tenderness. Seeing the blue-clothed fairy, everyone felt as if they were bathed in a spring breeze. All of their distracting thoughts were swept away. Lin Chen's mouth opened slightly. Qingxian Yu, Ning Qingxian quietly smiled. It was as if she would forever be here waiting for Lin Chen, like a pure and untainted lotus. "What, you don't like it?" A clear and elegant voice woke Lin Chen up. When he looked over, he couldn't shift his gaze away. Her long dress was like the first snow, and the long silk was like a cloud that fluttered around her body. Her hair was adorned with pearls, and her hair was tall. Her eyebrows were like the clouds of autumn. Her red lips were tender and beautiful, and her teeth were like jade. Her skin was like ice and her bones were like jade. There was a sense of nobility and elegance between her eyebrows. Her hands were placed in front of her slender waist. Reflected in Lin Chen's eyes, it made his eyes flash with a strange color. If there were fairies in the mortal world, she was the most beautiful one. Even the distinguished guests felt the same way. The final appearance of the three main wives could be said to be the most beautiful and peerless of celestial fairies, causing the beauties in the loser's seat to reveal expressions of utter defeat. Then, Yu Linlin revealed a devilish smile. Sisters and sisters, don't be fooled by the class monitor's frivolous behavior. He's a responsible freak. Yu Linlin pointed at Lin Chen's back and drew a heart shape with a smirk. As long as the rice is cooked, I'm not afraid that he won't take responsibility. Hearing this, the girls stared at Lin Chen's back, and their eyes lit up. Lin Chen subconsciously shuddered as he thought to himself, "Why do I feel like I'm being watched by someone?" Su Lan and Su Lan said together, "Enter the hall and bow to heaven and earth." Lin Chen and the girls entered the hall. The elders, led by Vice Principal Shen Lianyun and Principal Yun Tiange, as well as Shangguan Yunfan, Jian Qing, and the other prospective fathers-in-law, sat in the hall and received Lin Chen and the others' bows. The moment Lin Chen and the girls finished drinking the wine, the crowd was in an uproar. "Brothers, it's the class monitor's turn to celebrate. Let's go and get him drunk. He can't enter the bridal chamber if he's not drunk. We can't beat him in a fight, but we can't beat him in a drink. Brothers, let's get him." Once the fireworks were released, the wedding banquet began. Bai Juanhao, Lin Can, and the others swarmed forward, and the hall was filled with joy. "Good, you dare to drink with me? Are you guys too arrogant, or I can't drink anymore?" Lin Chen rolled up his sleeves and competed with everyone in drinking. Seeing Lin Chen and the others blend into this lively and peaceful scene, the brides, led by Bai Ruoyan, smiled sweetly. After 3 rounds of drinking, the crowd sent the newlyweds into the bridal chamber. However, before entering the bridal chamber, Bai Ruoyan raised her hand and smiled faintly at Lin Chen. "Wait a minute, there's still a surprise that you haven't received." Lin Chen was puzzled. Surprise? As soon as she finished speaking, a person with a peerless demeanor wearing a silver dress slowly floated down from the sky like a star. Her silver hair was light, her skin was whiter than snow, her face was like snow jade, her eyes were bright, her teeth were white, her lips were red like cherry blossoms, and her eyebrows were brighter than the moon. Her facial features were flawless, surpassing countless handsome men and beautiful women in the mortal world. That tight silver dress perfectly accentuated her slender figure that was like a willow branch under the spring sun. The gentleness between her brows revealed the shyness of a youth, and her smile that was tinged with a red glow revealed a peerless beauty that made all women pale in comparison. Lin Chen and everyone in Class 66 were dumbfounded. The beauties in the losers' seats were like foxes whose tails had been stepped on. Their almond-shaped eyes widened and they were dumbfounded. It was unknown which girl cried out in surprise. "Our competitors aren't limited to girls. The number 1 beauty of the sacred boundary in female clothing, how powerful was that?" Almost all the men in the class were turned gay, or rather, half of them were already turned gay. Feeling the burning gazes around her, Han Yizhi was so shy that she wanted to drill into the ground. She lowered her eyes and said timidly, "Dressing like this, wouldn't it be too strange?" Bai Ruoyan smiled. "Then you'll have to ask him." Han Yizhi raised her eyebrows and gathered her courage. "Class monitor, are you happy today? Sister-in-law told me to wear this. She said that wearing it would make you happy. She said that she wanted to give you a surprise. Would it turn into a shock?" Lin Chen was dumbfounded. Although he had already experienced Han Yizhi's charm, the moment he wore female clothing, Lin Chen almost turned gay. Lin Chen clicked his tongue and exclaimed, "No, I'm very happy. Please put in more effort." Han Yizhi let out a sigh of relief, as if she was perfectly satisfied. Lin Chen calmly gave Bai Ruoyan a thumbs up. My wife knows me best. Bai Ruoyan smiled and said, Sisters, do you see this heartless man? Do you know how to punish him next? Clang. A sword was placed against Lin Chen's neck. Jian Qingqing's cold gaze made Lin Chen's mouth twitch slightly. Send the groom to the bridal chamber. Everyone cheered and lifted Lin Chen one by one to send him into the room. Class monitor, today is the day for you to show off your spear skills. Sigh, it's my life's regret to not be able to see the class monitor's spear skills. Suddenly, Ying Liang looked curiously at Han Yizhi and subconsciously asked, Aren't you going into the bridal chamber? Han Yizhi's cheeks flushed red to the tips of her ears, and she hurriedly waved her hands. At the same time, as soon as Ying Liang's voice fell, a murderous gaze locked onto Ying Liang, making him tremble in fear. Yu Linlin hinted with a smile and said, If you continue talking, and if the class monitor develops in a strange direction, the sisters over there will cut you into 8 pieces. Ying Liang apologized loudly, Sisters, I was wrong. You're half dead. One of the princesses snorted coldly. The Heavenly Song Academy's banquet lasted for a whole month. After some people in the sacred boundary received the news, they continuously went to the Jiuzhou continent to participate in the banquet in a low-key manner. Just the congratulatory gifts from the distinguished guests lasted for a month. At the banquet, after 3 rounds of wine, Jian Wuji hugged Yun Tiange and smiled. Where's Lin Chen? Isn't it too boring to not let the groom come out to toast? Yun Tiange smiled playfully. My student is still practicing his spear skills. Jian Wuji's slightly drunk face showed a hint of astonishment. This kid, when did he become so hard-working? I'm really not used to him being so serious. He's still practicing his spear skills at this juncture? Yun Tiange laughed. Yes, he's been practicing for a month. Everyone burst into laughter. Chapter 1871. After the wedding banquet, the Sky Song Academy officially moved to the sacred boundary. Lin Chen led his wives to the sacred boundary. 12 years had passed in the blink of an eye. In 12 years, a large number of geniuses had emerged in the sacred boundary. The reason for this, apart from the providence belonging to the human race, was also due to a portion of the special geniuses. Whether it was the sacred boundary or the mortal realm, there were always special geniuses appearing. They were born with a yuan venerate cultivation at birth and possessed part of their memories. They could speak fluently and clearly, and they could even cultivate cultivation techniques when they were born. At first, when a few cases appeared, they did not attract much attention. However, as time passed, the number of special geniuses increased, and they became strong candidates to compete for the genius rankings and even the demon rankings. Outside the Ice Heart Palace, a little girl in white broke in. The little girl put her hands on her hips and shouted like an old woman. Open the door quickly. I want to see Lin Chen. The saint guarding the Ice Heart Palace was helpless. A figure flashed past. It was one of Lin Chen's servants, Tang Haiyue. Tang Haiyue asked, What happened? The saint guarding the palace said helplessly, I don't know where this little girl came from, but she's clamoring to see Lord Lin Chen. Tang Haiyue's gaze fell on the little girl. At first, she was shocked, then puzzled, and finally shocked. High above the Ice Heart Palace, on a cloud, Lin Chen was lying on the cloud. His eyes flickered as he finished reading the information Xiao Ling had compiled for him. At that moment, Bai Ruoyan flew over. After so many years, her beauty had changed slightly. Bai Ruoyan said, Thief, that matter. Lin Chen got up and nodded. I know. A genius with part of her cultivation memories. Lin Chen shook his head helplessly. Yaoer must have done it. The genius who was reborn is a human who was once persecuted by the criminals of the sacred prison. All the special geniuses were related to Luo Yaoer. In the past 12 years, Lin Chen had borrowed Bai Ruoyan's eternal sacred fire to go to the reincarnation steel hundreds of times. Luo Yao had used her own life force and cultivation to retain part of the memories of countless dead humans, allowing them to have complete and powerful lives after their rebirth. It's time. Lin Chen stood up. He was in high spirits and had regained his usual frivolous attitude. During these 12 years, Lin Chen roamed the 4 seas, traversing the divine river galaxy and enjoying the blessings of the mortal world. However, after searching the entire sacred boundary, he still couldn't find the last scroll of the Tai Futian mantra. His mantra was never complete, and even after taking away all the elemental light orbs in the divine river galaxy, he still couldn't step into the sacred heart realm. The last volume of the Tai Futian mantra might not be in the sacred boundary, much less the mortal world. Lin Chen could only go to the God realm and gamble. Mental cultivation techniques were the foundation of becoming strong. If he could find the complete version of the Tai Heaven concealing technique, Lin Chen's strength would increase by several times. On the other hand, Lin Chen's pure strength had soared to 700 billion venerable energy, even though the Dragon King had only absorbed a small portion of it after killing the primordial Azure Dragon. Lin Chen's realm had stopped at a bottleneck. The only miraculous thing was that Lin Chen's Dragon King had yet to come out of seclusion. However, Lin Chen could feel that the Dragon King's divine dragon meridian had already formed. The next time he came out of seclusion, he would surpass the Dragon King and descend in the form of a divine dragon. And it would be an extraordinary divine dragon. Bai Ruoyan seemed to have realized that it was time for them to part. She said softly, "Are you going to the God realm?" Lin Chen teased. "My wife, you can't bear to part with me?" Bai Ruoyan sighed. I wonder how many girls you're going to kidnap from the God realm." Lin Chen looked up and sighed. "Being handsome is so annoying." Bai Ruoyan suddenly asked curiously, "Speaking of which, why hasn't your appearance changed?" Although some cultivators could stay young forever, their appearance and temperament would more or less change. Only Lin Chen seemed to never change. After so many years, he still looked the same. Lin Chen stroked his chin. "According to the system's answer, this body of mine seems to grow according to the age of my original world. If I don't change in my original world, I won't change in this world." Bai Ruoyan looked doubtful. "Original world system? What's that?" Lin Chen laughed and said, "It's just a part of my body. Speaking of which, it's not like I haven't grown at all." Lin Chen said with a naughty smile, "Haven't I grown a lot in that aspect? You all can't handle it." Bai Ruoyan's cheeks flushed red. She covered her mouth and laughed. "You're all naughty from head to toe?" With Lin Chen's foundation, the dual cultivation union talent had given the girls a terrifying cultivation base in the past 12 years. Even Yang Qing'er and Yun Manqing, who had the weakest cultivations, were now 9th Revolution saints after 12 years of accumulation. As for the 3 main wives, Bai Ruoyan was a mid-stage quasi-god, Ning Qingxian was a reincarnation sage, and Leng Yueqi was an early-stage quasi-god. Being able to provide such powerful cultivation to the 3 girls was because of Lin Chen's terrifying cultivation foundation. Currently, there were very few existences in the Divine River Galaxy that could threaten them. The only fly in the ointment was that none of his wives or concubines were able to conceive Lin Chen's offspring. The reason was simple: Lin Chen was too strong. No matter what race it was, the stronger the existence, the harder it was for them to have descendants. In the past, the human race's martial god married over 100 beauties in order to nurture his descendants. They were all peerless existences in the human race's sacred boundary. Even so, the martial god still spent dozens of eras, hundreds of thousands of years, to produce one Wu Pianju. Just as Bai Ruoyan was about to talk to Lin Chen about Luo Yaoer, a group of beautiful figures suddenly rushed into the clouds. It was Lin Chen's beautiful wives. Jian Qingqing, who was leading the group, hurriedly said, "Lin Chen, quick, someone came from the palace. Quickly go down and take a look." Lin Chen was puzzled. Which big shot had come? Why did he have to go down personally? Lin Chen's figure flashed, and when he arrived at the main hall of the Ice Heart Palace, many servants were stunned as they looked at the little girl in white with her hands on her hips. Before Lin Chen could say anything, he was stunned when he saw the little girl's appearance and aura. The little girl said proudly, "Seeing me come back, are you so happy that you can't speak?" Lin Chen walked in front of her in shock and pinched her cheek. After confirming that it was a real person, he said in astonishment, "Ping'an, how did you come back?" Lin Ping'an, who had died in the war, had miraculously returned. Ha ha ha! A loud laugh sounded, and the figure of the old man appeared. He was riding a four-dimensional white goat, stroking his beard and laughing. What a strange combination of factors! Lin Chen, you have released the destiny of the human race, and the current situation of the human race has changed. The suffering of the world had been greatly reduced. The current suffering of the world was the pain of pain no longer exists. Lin Chen looked at the old man. "Senior, this is only the disappearance of the pain of pain. Ping'an didn't die in the war." The old man smiled. "You will have to ask her about this." Lin Ping'an's eyebrows curved slightly, smiling like a flower. "After I died, when I felt that I was about to fall into darkness, I saw a ray of light that guided me forward. I followed that ray of light and was reborn in an 8th-ranked family in the sacred boundary. I still have my previous memories." Lin Chen was stunned. When he and Bai Ruoyan looked at each other, the couple exclaimed in unison, "It's Yaoer." After Lin Ping'an died, the ray of light that guided him into reincarnation must have been guided by Luo Yaoer. If this demon empress had not chosen to atone in her own way, Lin Ping'an would have disappeared forever. Everything had its own cause and effect, except for Lin Chen. Chapter 1872. Ha ha ha, Big Sis Ping'an is back. Everyone, let's drink to our heart's content tonight. As expected, nothing related to the Lord is normal. Why is she so showy? Everyone cheered. Suddenly, Lin Chen raised his hand. Everyone was silent. Lin Chen announced, "Everyone, I'll leave the sacred boundary to you." Lin Chen opened his palm. It was Zhou Tian's spiritual imprint of the death seal. The next moment, Lin Chen erased everyone's spiritual imprint. All the servants trembled. The feeling of being controlled and being watched disappeared. Fong Ling was shocked. "My lord Yu," Lin Chen smiled. "I'm about to leave the sacred boundary. I don't have anything to give you, but I'll give you a form of freedom." All the servants' eyes were filled with tears. Their lord was so magnanimous. This wasn't just a formality. We're willing to follow our lord to death. This life belongs to Lin Chen. All the servants knelt and shouted in unison. Lin Ping'an looked at Lin Chen and said anxiously, "Are you leaving? Can you bring me along?" Lin Chen said helplessly, "You little girl, you're so playful when you're finally back. This time, you're not fooling around. Stay here in peace. No one will bully you when you're here." Lin Ping'an was a little disappointed. Then, she waved her fist and cheered for herself. "Humph. If you don't want to bring me along, so be it. Who cares? I'll work hard and surpass you in the future. I'll make you beg me to bring you along." Old man Wuji seemed to have expected this. Lin Chen, after three-dimensional beings enter the celestial realm, they won't be able to adapt to the fourth dimension and will be limited in strength. Please keep a low profile. Lin Chen laughed. "Don't worry, I'll keep a low profile." Lin Chen will keep a low profile. "Yes, I really believe it," Lin Chen said. "After I leave, I'll leave a single phantom to guard the sacred boundary." Whoosh! Lin Chen soared into the sky, and the crowd of beautiful women looked on anxiously. Countless words were on the tip of their tongues, but in the end only one sentence remained. "Remember to come back. Big brother, I'll send you off." A dark shadow emerged, and Lin Can's figure appeared in the sky. "Shadow King, take off." Lin Chen laughed heartily and patted Lin Can's shoulder. The shadow transformed into a dragon and carried Lin Can out of the Divine River Galaxy. The Shadow King, who had stepped into the quasi-god level of cultivation, could travel through the void even faster than Lin Chen. Lin Chen had met two women from the god realm. The woman with starry eyes had given Lin Chen a starry sky god stone that was refined from a three-dimensional material. Three-dimensional creatures could also use it. Normal three-dimensional creatures would need to find the boundary of the universe to travel to the four-dimensional universe. There were many entrances to the four-dimensional universe there. However, the universe Lin Chen was in was constantly expanding, and the boundaries of the universe were constantly expanding outwards. Using normal means to search for him would take at least several epochs. 12 years ago, one day when Lin Chen was unconscious, the boundary of the mystic domain. On the cliff outside the wooden house, the two women met. Bai Ruoyan lost her voice in shock. "You want to save the lives of those humans who died?" Luo Yaoer nodded. "I can feel the aura of the eternal sacred flame on your body. You have once reached the reincarnation tablet. If it's you, you should be able to understand what I mean." Bai Ruoyan shook her head. "I don't understand. If you do this, you will only be playing with your life. Don't forget that the reason he participated in this war is because of you." A happy smile appeared on Luo Yaoer's pale face. "It's because I started everything that I want to end it all. I promised my mother that I would not fall into the hatred of the demonic tribe. I would understand the importance of life and open up a new path for the demonic tribe. I failed my mother's wishes and was driven by the hatred of the demonic tribe. If I hadn't met him, I wouldn't even remember these things." Luo Yaoer looked at Bai Ruoyan. "Please take care of him for me." Bai Ruoyan pondered for a long time. Then, she said seriously, "If you have made up your mind, please promise me something." Luo Yaoer stroked her hair and said softly, "Please speak." Bai Ruoyan only said one thing. "Please, don't die." The reincarnation tablet. In front of the huge heavenly tablet, a figure stood there quietly. Outside the barrier, Bai Ruoyan, who was bathed in the eternal sacred flame, transmitted her voice. "He has already set off for the divine realm." The beautiful figure in front of the heavenly tablet trembled slightly. Outside the barrier, Bai Ruoyan sighed. "You want to fulfill the promise your late mother made. I hope you won't forget the promise between you and me. Big brother, please be careful." After leaving the Divine River Galaxy, Lin Can and Lin Chen solemnly bid farewell. The two brothers gave each other a bear hug. Lin Can's cultivation was not enough to go to the divine realm. Although Lin Can's spatial talent was powerful, he had to face the baptism of the energy tide in order to ascend to the divine realm. It was equivalent to descending to the divine realm. He had to face it with his strength. Lin Can's strength was insufficient, so he could only stay in the sacred boundary. When he opened his palm, the green starry sky divine stone flickered. This item was made with the materials of the Divine River Galaxy. The three-dimensional human race could also use it. The woman in the starry sky dress left it for Lin Chen to teleport to the divine realm. Lin Chen shook his head and laughed. "When I first arrived at the sacred boundary, my cultivation was at the 7th level of the Battle Emperor realm. Now that I'm about to ascend to the divine realm, I'm also at the 7th level of the Sage realm. Why do I feel like I've been arranged so clearly?" Crack! Bang! Lin Chen crushed the starry sky divine stone. Instantly, a ray of silver-white light appeared in the sky and crushed the stars nearby. Lin Chen was sucked into the ray of light. Lin Chen's primordial spirit perception instantly disappeared. It was as if it had been cut off. A strange force was pulling Lin Chen. "This is the energy tide I have to face when ascending to the divine realm." Lin Chen instantly activated his sacred energy defense. He stared into the distance and disappeared after being sucked into the silver-white ray of light. 1 month later, in the four-dimensional divine realm, becoming a god was just the beginning. There were 3,000 grand daos, and the truth of the laws were contained within them. True gods who controlled the laws were the best among the gods. In the vast universe, countless galaxies, star fields, and nebulas were arranged in rows. Numerous nets of law covered the universe. The 3,000 grand daos hung in the sky like a net of law. Galaxies formed a star field. Among the many star fields in the divine realm, the divine desolate star field was the most vast. At the border of the divine desolate star field, there was a continent. Today, 2 handsome young masters of the Shangguan family of the enlightened sky continent were carrying out an family mission with many true gods. In the void, a team was moving as fast as a shooting star. A burly man with fiery eyebrows and sharp eyes said with a mocking smile, "When did the Shangguan clan produce such handsome heroes like you? Why have I never seen you before? Could it be that you're an expert hidden by the Shangguan family?" The snow-robed young master in the team said indifferently, "Your Excellency Chiyu, it's enough that we can prove that we're from the Shangguan family. You don't need to worry about anything else. Or do you want to use your body to personally experience the Shangguan family's cultivation technique?" TCH, True God Huomei curled his lips. The attitude of the 2 people was so strong that he was given the cold shoulder. When the team passed by a mountain range, a terrifying roar that seemed to tear the sky apart resounded throughout the sky. Roar, roar, roar. The sound waves rolled over, and the true gods were shocked. This is the roar of the king of the exploding dragon in the nearby exploding dragon mountain range. The 7 true gods looked at each other and had a tacit understanding. Let's go and take a look. In the curved space, the various true gods used their movement technique. Strange phenomena appeared as they shuttled through the void. Clouds and smoke filled the air. The mountain range with undulating peaks was in a complete mess. The ground cracked and the mountains collapsed. Such terrifying destructive power caused the 5 true gods to have grave expressions. Good heavens! Which ruthless person suppressed the exploding dragon mountain range? Other than the king of the exploding dragon, there's also an azure dragon. The 2 divine dragons are ferocious by nature. Apart from us and the other true gods, no one would dare to provoke them. It's rumored that the nearby Cheongchi of the Great Wilderness has set their eyes on the exploding dragon mountain range. Could it be that they've started a fight? But why is the corpse gone? No. There's someone under the mountain range. While the 7 true gods were discussing, True God Huomei exclaimed. The true gods stared at the mountain range. Under the mountain range, a silver-robed figure bathed in blood stood there. His saint points were dim and lightless. He stood there like a war spear with his arms crossed in front of his chest. His posture was awe-inspiring, and his aura did not decrease. The true gods sucked in a breath of cold air. Is this for real? 7th Heaven Sage Realm? Where did this true god come from? In the exploding dragon mountain range, saint beasts ran amok. Saint beasts could be found everywhere. A 7th Heaven Sage Realm expert was not even enough to fill the gaps between the teeth of a saint beast. He dared to enter this place? Before he even reached the periphery, he was already devoured without leaving a corpse behind. The 2 handsome Shangguan family young masters stared at the figure. The snow-robed young master suddenly said, "He seems to have lost consciousness." The 5 true gods' figures flashed. After confirming that there was no danger, they approached. When they landed and took a closer look, the snow-robed young master's pupils shrank. He actually fainted while standing. Another handsome young master of the Shangguan family, who was also a brilliant young master, lost his voice in shock. The reason why he fainted it's because of the rejection of the dimension. The true gods felt as if they were struck by lightning. They were dumbfounded, and their expressions gradually became ridiculous. Rejection of the dimension? This was even more king ridiculous. What kind of concept was this? Did it mean that this kid was actually a 3-dimensional human who had just arrived here? A seventh heaven sage realm three-dimensional human dared to enter the exploding Dragon Mountain range? And he even survived? There was a huge gap between a true god and a true god. The two of them could not be compared at all. No matter how amazing a genius was, it was impossible for a seventh heaven sage realm expert to overturn the heavens. Even a novel writer would not dare to write like this. Even if you want to talk nonsense, you still have to pay attention to the basics. What kind of **T was this? Divine World Chapter Start. A new journey speeding all the way. Chapter 1873. Time continued to move forward. Lin Chen used his fleshly body to resist the tidal force brought about by the ascension. He had forcefully entered the divine world. Even though he managed to forcefully resist the tidal force, an awkward thing happened. The cosmos divine stone that the lady in the starry dress had given Lin Chen disappeared halfway. No. He couldn't blame the lady for this. The destination of the cosmos divine stone was the 5 continents of the divine world. At the very least, it would be able to reach the enlightened sky mainland. At the very least, it would be able to send Lin Chen to a safe place. However, because the cosmos divine stone was made of three-dimensional materials, there was a flaw. The user's cultivation would determine the distance the stone could travel. If Lin Chen used the stone as a true god, he would definitely be able to reach the 5 continents. He might even be able to reach the territory of the Lin family. Even though Lin Chen's saint energy was strong enough to fight against a true god, he was still a 7th heaven true saint. The lady with the starry eyes had never expected that a 7th heaven true saint would be able to ascend to the divine world. Who the **CK would have expected this? A 7th heaven true saint? He was like a ghost. At the very least, he should be a quasi-god. This was something completely unexpected. As a result, the heavenly space divine stone was shot out of Lin Chen's body as soon as he entered the divine world. As a result, Lin Chen had landed in the most dangerous place in the divine world, the divine desolate star region. Even though it was just the border, it was definitely not a place that a true saint could reach. The divine desolate star region of the divine world was occupied by the dragon race, devil race, beast race, and Azura race. It was the most dangerous place for the human race. True saints were no different from ants in the divine desolate star region. The slightest movement would cause them to be crushed to death. Rumble! A silvery white pillar of light descended and Lin Chen's figure appeared. At this moment, what appeared in front of him was a brand new world. The curved world seemed to be hanging in the sky. Above him was a dense forest surrounded by towering trees. There were even a few Saint King grade saint beasts in the forest above him. Due to the hardness of the crystal walls, Lin Chen could only create a gust of wind when he punched with his 700 billion venerable energy. The space of the God realm is so hard. Back in the Divine River planetary system, my fist strike could wipe out half of the planetary system, but here it could only destroy a forest. Lin Chen took a deep breath and inhaled a mouthful of spiritual energy. He was in high spirits as he praised, "The spiritual energy of the God realm is truly pure." Compared to the sacred boundary, the purity of the spiritual energy was more than 1,000 times higher. What a monster! If I were to pick up attributes here, wouldn't I soar? Boom! Lin Chen threw out another punch with all his might. The wind from his punch wasn't moving forward, but from a visual point of view, it was actually moving upwards. This is a 4-dimensional world. Lin Chen gasped in amazement. The 4-dimensional world, from the perspective of the naked eye, was like being inside a curved and rotating sphere. Every time Lin Chen took a step, the curved world would spin, and the scenery would change. If Lin Chen wanted to reach the forest above his head, he shouldn't be flying upwards. He should be walking forward. Lin Chen threw a punch forward. The attack seemed to be flying upwards in a curved arc, but it was actually moving forward. This was just an analogy. Lin Chen was currently in the four-dimensional world, and what he sensed was far more complicated and magical than he imagined. However, in the next moment, Lin Chen's expression was extremely interesting. My sacred power, flesh shell, and even my primordial spirit are starting to shrink. Lin Chen was moved. His cultivation, pure strength, and primordial spirit were slowly dimming. The more his cultivation shrunk, the clearer Lin Chen could see the four-dimensional world. This is what the old man Wuji said: when the body is familiar with the four-dimensional world, most of my cultivation will temporarily enter a state where I can't use it. Lin Chen was about to slip away. Boom, boom, boom. The earth trembled, and a violent aura swept through the surroundings like a hurricane. When the scorching dragon aura approached Lin Chen, a low roar reverberated in the sky. Where did this weak human come from? How dare you sneak into my lair, die? Whoosh! The sound of wind cracking could be heard, and a dragon claw burning with majestic divine flames smashed down from above Lin Chen's head. F***CK. Encountering a divine dragon at the beginning of the heavenly realm? What the F***CK? What the F***CK? Facing the attack from above, Lin Chen's shoulders trembled as he channeled all of his remaining saint energy. With a backhand strike, he activated the 9 Extinction Heaven Burning Palm with the Flash Shadow technique. Whoosh! Bang! The mountains and rivers trembled, and the wind and clouds suddenly changed. The shock wave blew away a large amount of vegetation, and the aftermath of the two sides burst forth, burning a sea of fire. You can actually take a claw from me, the exploding Dragon King. You are not an ordinary human. Die. I'm going to devour you and your secrets. A huge creature appeared out of nowhere. Its majestic dragon body was hundreds of feet long, and its majestic aura was majestic. It was even stronger than the divine dragons in the sacred boundary that were comparable to small galaxies. It's more familiar with the fourth dimension than I am. If I want to escape, I have to escape before my cultivation is suppressed. If I can't escape, I will die here. Rather than that, it's better to end this quickly and destroy it before my cultivation is completely suppressed. Lin Chen released his 6 illusionary doppelgangers and rushed forward, unleashing all their firepower. Rumble! The heavens and earth were filled with an endless battle aura that instantly attracted the attention of the second Grand Desolation Azure Dragon. Lin Chen's eyes were filled with murderous intent. F***CK. Do you really think the people in the three-dimensional universe are easy to bully, Divine Dragon? A dragon's roar shook heaven and earth, and another divine dragon descended. Under the valley, a silver-robed figure bathed in blood stood there. That person's sacred acupoints were dim, and he had lost all his sacred power. He stood there like a war spear with his arms crossed in front of his chest. His posture was awe-inspiring, and his aura did not diminish at all. Hey, is this for real? Why is there a saint in that place? The explosive Dragon Mountain Range is where the sacred beast of reincarnation roams. Why is he here? Staring at the unconscious Lin Chen, the few true gods asked curiously, "What a young three-dimensional human." Sigh. His physique refining power seems a little interesting, but because of the repulsion of the dimension, it's suppressed. It's suppressed to an extremely low level, and I can't sense his exact strength. No matter what, it's unbelievable that a 7th-level saint could enter this place. While the two true gods were discussing, the two handsome young masters of the Shangguan family suddenly said, "We can't sense the aura of the explosive Dragon King and the Grand Desolation Azure Dragon. They must have died an unnatural death. It's strange. If they were killed, where did the ruthless person who killed the two divine beasts go? Along the way, we didn't see any signs of experts leaving or using skills. Could it be a big shot who has mastered the laws of nature?" The true gods looked at each other. True God Huo Chi Yu said seriously, first, we can eliminate the first possibility. The death of the explosive Dragon King has nothing to do with him. Chi Yu looked around and said seriously, looking at his appearance, he should have just descended from the third dimension. There should be one or more true gods with him. That's right. Any true god with a normal brain would not think that a 7th-level saint human had anything to do with the death of the explosive Dragon King. What kind of existence was a divine beast? It could wipe out a large number of sage kings in one breath. A 7th-level saint? He was not even enough to fill the gap between the teeth. Based on their experience, no matter how powerful a 7th-level saint was, it was impossible for him to be able to threaten a divine dragon. The only possibility was that when the young 3-dimensional human ascended, there was a true god with him. Then, when he descended, the true god killed the explosive Dragon King. Then, something happened and they were unable to bring him away in time. Thinking about it this way, everything made sense. Otherwise, it was impossible to imagine how this kid could survive in the explosive Dragon Mountain range. Chapter 1874. There were countless human universes, and the divine river galaxy that Lin Chen was in was only one of them. Countless 3-dimensional universes would occasionally give birth to true gods with strong mental states and choose to ascend to the divine world. For 3-dimensional beings who came to the 4-dimensional divine world for the first time, their strength would be gradually suppressed because they couldn't adapt to the 4-dimensional world. Only when they were truly suited to the 4-dimensional world would they be able to unleash their full strength. Suddenly, the Shangguan family's snow-robed young master said seriously, "My Shangguan family wants this human. Coincidentally, my Shangguan family is in need of people." The other 3 true gods' eyes changed and Chi Yu sneered. "You want to take all the secrets on this child?" A saint who was able to remain alive in the explosive Dragon Mountain range might have some secrets after all. Although to a true god, the secrets of a sage weren't of much interest. Even if this child had a grade 9 sacred artifact and a pinnacle sacred pill, they were nothing to a true god. But the 3 true gods were experienced and would rather kill 100 innocents than let one go. He's just a sage level 7. According to the price of a slave in the Realm Sea, he's only worth a few odd crystals. Why, are you not convinced that my Shangguan family wants this person? The snow-robed young master squinted his eyes and revealed his killing intent. The atmosphere between the 5 true gods instantly became tense. Chi Yu sneered. "What do you take us for? This kid is obviously strange. Either we dismember him and see his secrets and fate plant pout, or we crush him to death and give him to your Shangguan family." Chi Yu didn't know that the moment he had killing intent towards Lin Chen, some power in Lin Chen's body flashed with killing intent. Another true god in blue said indifferently, "Your Shangguan family can't take this child. We're here to cooperate, not to fight among ourselves." The third old man with white eyebrows smiled with a knife hidden in his smile. He stroked his beard and said, "In my opinion, both of you should take a step back and dismember this child on the spot. Let's see what secrets he has. If there are secrets, we can divide them equally." The snow-robed young master emphasized again. "I'll say it one last time. My Shangguan family wants this person. I'll fall out with whoever opposes." The white-robed young master looked at him in confusion. Boom! Divine might was as vast as the sea, and divine grace lingered around. Countless divine powers condensed in the air, and a divine voice spread out in all directions. Blue-gold divine power notes destroyed the aftermath of Oblivion Mountain and River. The snow-robed young master actually released his divine might to suppress the 3 deities. The 3 deities' expressions changed slightly. The white-browed elder who was pretending to be a peacemaker now had a serious expression on his face. This aura seems to be close to the 2nd level of the divine realm. Could it be The snow-robed young master's voice was as clear as a spring, cold and emotionless. "Now, whoever opposes, please step forward." Domineering and powerful. He didn't give the three true gods any face at all. He had an attitude of, "If you dare to object, I'll fall out with you." He glanced at his younger brother beside him and said calmly, "Go put him into the Providence plant pouch. Don't worry." The white-robed man's face was full of suspicion, but he still did as he was told. He floated in the air, opened his fate plant pouch, and put Lin Chen into it. How domineering. Forget it, this is the world of you young people. Each generation is stronger than the last. Your Shangguan family is really tough. Just be careful not to be too tough and die prematurely. For the Shangguan clan to have such a young genius like you, it's really a blessing from the ancestral graves. The three true gods put on a fake smile. The snow-robed young master said calmly, "Thank you for the compliment." After suppressing the three deities and putting Lin Chen away, the five of them continued with their mission. The white-robed young master, who was also from the Shangguan family, was very confused about this, but he didn't ask anything. After the five deities left, a short while later, another group of people appeared at the Exploding Dragon Mountain range. The Exploding Dragon King's aura disappeared. This Exploding Dragon King's life. I should have given the order and mission. The Divine Beast Core is used to refine the Exploding Dragon Divine Pill. Those who are weaker than my sect shouldn't dare to touch this prey. The beautiful figure in the lead of the new group snorted coldly. Who dares to steal my prey? If I find you, I'll smash your head. 3 days later, after the mission ended, the two from the Shangguan family returned to the Enlightening Sky continent in the Star State. When they returned to the Enlightening Sky continent, the white-robed young master couldn't help but ask, "Sister, that mortal is still unconscious. Why did you save him? You offended three true gods for a mortal. That Chi Yu is still in his peak condition. He might reach the second level of the divine realm in the future and become a hidden danger to the Shangguan family." Although her sister's choice was correct, she didn't understand this time. The Shangguan family of the Star State was one of the rulers of the Enlightening Sky continent. The two were true gods of the Shangguan family, so they disguised themselves as men. The snow-robed young master said calmly, "You don't have to say anything. I have my own considerations." The two returned to the Enlightening Sky continent. In a large area in the southeast, a large number of lit towers soared into the sky and revolved around the entire world. The light at the top of the towers condensed dense and pure saint power, which was comparable to God power. The energy at the top of the towers was transmitted to the outside world and projected to a distant place. This was the Divine Realm's unique peace zone. After descending on a huge mansion, the two returned to the Shangguan residence and changed back into women's clothes. The elder sister, Shangguan Yun, was cold and beautiful like an ice goddess. Her beautiful face was cold and emotionless. When she emitted god power, her sharp eyes seemed to be able to see through everything. The younger sister, Shangguan Qi, was natural and graceful. Her long hair reached her waist, and she wore a palace dress. She looked like a beauty from a neighboring country. "Welcome, seventh young mistress, sixth young mistress." The saint maids in the mansion bowed and received the gifts for the two. Seventh young mistress, Shangguan Qi, waved her hand, and a silver-robed figure appeared in the void. She said calmly, "Find a guest room for him. When he wakes up, don't let him walk around. Inform us." "Yes." The saint maids accepted the order and looked at Lin Chen curiously. It was strange that seventh young mistress had brought a man back to the mansion. Shangguan Yun looked at Lin Chen deeply and left for the main hall. Shangguan Qi looked at her sister's back helplessly. "Sister, you threw this matter to me again. Is this a test?" Lin Chen was carefully helped down by the maids. The maids were discussing among themselves. Who is the man that the two young mistresses favor? This young master is so handsome. The ladies' laughter lingered in his ears. His chaotic consciousness disturbed Lin Chen's senses. He was deeply confused for a long time and could not wake up for a long time. The system's light screen flashed crazily and could not stop. Host has received 39.99 million high-level sacred health points, 8,000 high-level fire energy points. Lin Chen's attribute points were still soaring and only stopped after a few days. Lin Chen, on the other hand, stood up when his consciousness was faintly restored. Where am I? I'm still alive? Lin Chen touched his body and checked the big black spear. When he found that he was unharmed, he was instantly relieved. He had changed out of his blood-stained silver robe and had changed into a brand new green robe. Although I took away the attribute light ball at the last minute and asked Dragon God to be vigilant, I'm really lucky to be able to survive in such a dangerous place. Lin Chen got up from the bed and his stomach growled ferociously. Lin Chen was stunned. I'm hungry? He realized that he was not just hungry. He was so hungry that his limbs were weak. With Lin Chen's cultivation, he could completely absorb spiritual qi to survive. It was not a problem even for a saint. He had only been in the realm of the gods for a few days, and he was already hungry. Lin Chen was amazed. It seems that even a saint can't eat in the realm of the gods. At this time, the door opened and a holy maid came in with food. When she saw Lin Chen wake up, she hurriedly said, "Young master, you can't move yet." Lin Chen smiled and said, "Beautiful girls, thank you for saving my life. Where am I now?" The holy maid shook her head. "It's not me who saved you. It's the eldest miss and the others." She put down the food on the plate. Lin Chen was attracted by the delicacies of the realm of the gods. He sat up and wolfed down the food without caring about his image. The holy maid covered her mouth and laughed. "Young master, you must be from outside the realm of the gods. You look completely different from us." Lin Chen's mouth was full of oil. He grinned. "What's different? Am I more handsome? Or have you never seen someone as handsome as me? Oh, I can't stand compliment. If you want to compliment me, you can compliment me more." The holy maid laughed. "Young master, you're so humorous. You're different from the people of the enlightened sky continent." Lin Chen's heart skipped a beat. He had heard of this name in the jade slip given to him by the woman in the star dress in the enlightened sky continent. At this time, two beautiful figures walked in from the door. The holy maid hurriedly stood up and bowed. "Greetings, 7th Miss and 6th Miss. I, Littlin, pay my respects to you too." Shangguanqi frowned and thought, what kind of table manners is this? Why did elder sister offend 3 true gods for this kind of person? The moment Shangguan Yun saw Lin Chen's eyes, a strange light flashed in her clear eyes. This young man, no, this man. He was completely different from the saints of the enlightened sky continent. He had fangs and they were very sharp. A thought flashed in Shangguan Yun's mind. This man might be the type who was born to enter the ninefold realm sea. Seeing Lin Chen's table manners, 7th Miss Shangguanqi's lips twitched slightly. She even felt that the workers in her mine were more polite than him. Shangguanqi said indifferently, "Is this how you treat your saviors? Without us, you would have been fed to the saint beast." Shangguan Yun stepped forward and walked to Lin Chen. She said, "Tell me your name, origin, and ability. Tell me as much as you can." Lin Chen immediately stood up and cupped his fist. "Are the two of you my saviors? I'm Lin Chen, from the three-dimensional Divine River Galaxy. In the industry, people call me Rentai Shui. My nickname is Jundok Shui. His part-time job is alchemy and acting tough. His unique skill is the little black dragon in the wave. He can send a black spear into the sky. His specialty is his specialty. The book he likes to read is my martial arts depends on picking up. His hobby is studying the knowledge of both sexes." Chapter 1875. Lin Chen straightened his back, but the way he saluted with a chicken drumstick in his mouth really made it hard for people to be serious. Maid Xiao An's eyes shone brightly as she stared at Lin Chen curiously. Shang Guanqi seemed to be extremely helpless and had no choice but to obey. Which three-dimensional universe gave birth to such an unorthodox weirdo? Shang Guanyun didn't think so. Her eyes were cold and sharp, which didn't match her beautiful temperament at all. Shang Guanyun said seriously, "How did you come to the divine realm, alone?" Lin Chen said, "By chance, I was close to the boundary of the universe and was brought here." Shang Guanyun said again, "How did you withstand the tidal force of the dimension ascension?" Lin Chen wiped his hands and said, "I have some achievements in body refining since I was a child. It's a little hard, a little hard. I used my flesh shell to resist and my defense to resist. I thought I would definitely die, but I didn't expect to come to the divine realm. Maybe the heavens saw that I was too handsome and couldn't bear to take my life." Ignoring Lin Chen's glib tongue, Shang Guanyun asked again, "Do you still remember when you first came to the divine realm? Did you see anything?" Lin Chen said, "No, I became stupid as soon as I came." His younger sister, Shang Guanqi, saw the conversation between the two and had a slightly higher opinion of Lin Chen. Her sister was the most far-sighted true god in the Shangguan family, and her train of thought was also very difficult to keep up with. This young man could answer her sister's question in a second. He was really not simple, Shang Guanyun asked without hesitation. "That's all?" Lin Chen scratched his head and said with a smile, "Miss, you are in the divine realm, right? You saw through me from head to toe. What else can I hide? I am an honest child." Shang Guanyun turned around and said indifferently, "Qi, arrange for him to go to the mine tomorrow." After that, Shang Guanyun left. Shang Guanqi's almond-shaped eyes widened and she was stunned. She hurriedly chased out of the room and said, "My good sister, are you kidding me? We've paid such a high price, and all you've saved is a bricklayer?" Shang Guanyun smiled for the first time. "Don't worry, it won't take long. This man isn't someone who can stay idle and doesn't belong to the enlightened sky continent. Rather, he's the complete opposite of the people here. Sooner or later, he will show his fangs." Hearing her words, Shang Guanqi's mouth twitched slightly. She was indeed his elder sister. Only a few people in the entire family could keep up with her. Shang Guanqi sighed helplessly. "Sure enough, compared to me who is cultivating in a greenhouse, sister who has crossed the realm sea has seen things further. Her talent wasn't any worse than her sister's. In fact, it was even better." However, after Big Sister went to the first realm sea once, she could be said to have undergone a tremendous transformation. She broke through the shackles of the deity realm, and her actions were even more swift and decisive, precise and fierce. Shang Guanqi returned to the room and said, "Shaoan, take my handwritten instructions and let him report to the nitrate mining department tomorrow." Maid Xiao An's expression changed slightly. She took the order and said respectfully, "Shaoan accepts the order." Glancing at Lin Chen who was still eating, Shang Guanqi couldn't help but roll her eyes, slamming the door and leaving. Lin Chen chuckled softly. "I've met a ruthless character right from the start," and was puzzled. What did Prince Lin Chen say?" Lin Chen laughed and said, "It's nothing. I was just saying that I met such a beautiful lady as soon as I arrived." Shaoan said seriously, "The two ladies are indeed very beautiful." Lin Chen took out a mirror and pointed at the little handmaiden's reflection. He smiled and said, "I'm talking about this little sister. You're so annoying, young master." Shaoan's cheeks blushed as she patted Lin Chen's shoulder shyly. The next day, in the mine. Bang! Bang! With two loud bangs, the saints in the mine stared at Lin Chen, who was carrying the huge ore on his shoulders, dumbfounded. Lin Chen grinned. "Come on, hit the workers." Working as a worker, working as a spirit, working as a worker was always above others. We have to work in secret and then amaze everyone. Then, when Lin Chen went deep into the ground, he waved the two mining hoes in his hands, and they were like afterimages as he crazily dug through the earth veins. If you want to be a worker made of iron, you'll be a princess if you rely on others. If you rely on yourself, you'll be a sun person. If you rely on yourself, you'll be a black horse person. If you rely on yourself, you'll be a glorious worker. Host has received 329 points of high-tier Saint-tier metal elemental energy, 3 million points of high-tier holy essence. There were many attributes in the underground mine. Although the quality was not high, Lin Chen felt an inexplicable sense of comfort after absorbing them. Bang! 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 The ground shook as Lin Chen dug crazily. His efficiency was so high that all the saints who worked there were dumbfounded. Holy sh*t, this kid is so fierce. This technique, this speed, this hardness, I'm dumbfounded. Seeing him work so passionately, I can't help but get excited. As expected of someone recruited by young mistress. Is he so good at mining? Not every miner is called Lin Chen. I'm willing to call him the most inspirational miner. After a day, Lin Chen's achievements in the mine were remarkable. The depth of the mine and the efficiency of moving the mine were far beyond other saint workers. 3 days later, Lin Chen was still moving the mine. If this was spread back to the sacred boundary, no one would believe it. The man who was known as the most handsome man in the universe was actually moving the mine peacefully? Lin Chen's various performances were all witnessed by the sisters in the distant tower. Shangguanqi was puzzled. Sister, there's nothing strange about this. What are you trying to do? Shangguan Yun said expressionlessly, haven't you noticed? His movements are getting faster and faster every day. Shangguanqi was suspicious. But he's no different from the workers in the mine. Shangguan Yun asked, what's the record of the fastest three-dimensional creature to familiarize himself with the fourth dimension? Shangguanqi curiously calculated and said, the luminous sun god from the three-dimensional celestial dragon galaxy used less than 500 years to completely familiarize himself with the divine realm. Before she finished speaking, Shangguanqi's expression changed. That's right, the most outstanding true gods from the three-dimensional galaxy ascended to the divine realm. According to the known records, it took them hundreds of years to familiarize themselves with the ecology of the divine realm and recover their cultivation. How long did this kid take? The current Lin Chen was walking as if he was flying, and there was no rejection at all. Judging from the pure power displayed, the tyrannical Saint Beast Barbaric Dragon had recovered more than 500,000 Supreme Qi, and 49 Saint Points had been lit up. His cultivation had recovered a lot. At this speed, he would be able to fully familiarize himself with the ecology of the divine realm in a few years. No. Speaking of which, she had always felt a sense of strangeness. She felt a very strong sense of strangeness from Lin Chen. Because he was very natural. Rather than natural, it was better to say that he was calm and composed. Speaking of which, the difference between a saint and a true god was like heaven and earth. Was it possible for a saint to be neither servile nor overbearing in front of two true gods? Perhaps her sister had already noticed this. This kid might be an unprecedented prodigy. Chapter 1876. However, Shangguanqi was still confused. No matter how outstanding and monstrous he was only a 7th-level saint. There were still 8th-level saint, 9th-level saint, 9th-level saint, half-step saint king, reincarnation saint, and quasi-god. How many years would it take for an ordinary human to cross these realms? It was too long. In the divine realm, even the gods could not live forever. A Saint King's lifespan was only 2,000 years. By the time he climbed to the reincarnation saint stage, he would have died of old age. If he did not even have the cultivation of a reincarnation saint, he would be like a piece of duckweed in the Shangguan clan. It was not surprising that he would disappear at any time. However, Shangguan Yun seemed to have seen something even further away. She said indifferently, it's decided. Pass down my order. 1 month later, let him participate in the Shangguan clan's operation to Blood Fox Mountain. After saying that, Shangguan Yun left the tower without hesitation. Shangguan Qi looked at her sister's back in a daze and shook her head in self-mockery. If I hadn't followed her for so many years, I would have thought that she was crazy. The operation to Blood Fox Mountain? That was a life-and-death battle that only reincarnation saints could participate in. There would be many ancient sects that would send true god-level geniuses to participate, and they would not be inferior to her and her sister. What did it mean for a 7th-level saint to participate in such an operation? A little white rabbit mixed in with a group of towering elephants? Not to mention trampling him to death, she could even blow him over with a breath. Not to mention that this 7th-level saint was a 3-dimensional human whose cultivation was suppressed. Was her sister too ridiculous, or was this young man too monstrous? After eating and drinking to his heart's content, Lin Chen returned to his residence. The smile on his face disappeared in the next moment. Lin Chen sat on the bed with a deep look in his eyes. Enlightening heaven continent, there will never be a tomorrow. So that's how it is. After experiencing it personally, this sentence is indeed well-deserved. The enlightening heaven continent was a part of the star state, and it was controlled by many supreme families and forces. This was a peaceful area where there was no fighting. No, it should be said that the saints here did not even know how to fight. There were even very few saints who had learned cultivation techniques. What did it mean that a saint did not even know a cultivation technique? If this was in the sacred boundary, it would be unimaginable. But here, it was nothing out of the ordinary. The saints here didn't even know how to fight. All they had was saint power. Their acupoint expansion and acupoint condensation aptitude were nurtured and influenced by the God realm. They weren't inferior to those on the sacred boundaries monster ranking. However, the saints of the enlightened sky continent worked at sunrise and rested at sunset. 2 classes a day, forever. They were paid on time, and there were forbidden areas that they could not enter. There were more than 10 types of jobs, such as mines, holy towers, blood transmissions, fire burning, and so on. The mine was what Lin Chen was doing now. The sanctum, on the other hand, had to transfer a large amount of sacred power to the sanctum in a specific space and location. This was also the reason why Lin Chen had discovered so many towers nearby. They were all sacred towers. Every day, a large number of saints would enter to transfer their saint energy. Blood transmission was to transfer one's qi and blood to the divine tree. It had a higher requirement for one's body refinement. Ignite flame, burning one's own saint energy to supply the heavenly flame altar. Lin Chen narrowed his eyes. All the jobs are similar. They require saints to pay a huge price. The saints who participate in these jobs have half the lifespan of saints of the same level. After a baby was born in the enlightened sky continent, he could break through to the saint realm when he reached adulthood. He would then be sent here to work until he died of old age. The enlightened sky continent was completely under the rule of the celestial race. There was no competition or development. There was only a routine life. There were all sorts of entertainment methods here, but Lin Chen wasn't interested in learning about them. He only knew that he had to leave this place as soon as possible. Lin Chen didn't stay here because his brain was damaged. He was purely relying on the jobs in the mine and picking up attributes to help him familiarize himself with the 4-dimensional divine world. Moreover, he hid it very well. Even the 2 Shangguan sisters couldn't see through him completely. After all, it wasn't just his main body that was familiar with the 4-dimensional divine world, but also his phantom doppelganger. Lin Chen clenched his fists and closed his eyes to sense it. I've already recovered 30% of my strength. If I can recover more than 90% of my strength, I'll have the strength of an early-stage first-level true god. When the time comes, I'll immediately look for clues about the Lin family. In the divine world, There should be many conditions to break through to the Saint Heart realm and Heaven Opening realm. The corners of Lin Chen's lips curled upwards as he circulated the Tai-E sky concealing technique. Among the 140 saint points, 110 of them lit up, and boundless saint energy began to circulate. As expected, although there aren't many attribute light balls in this mine, there's a benefit to them. Lin Chen's eyes lit up. The attribute light balls dropped by the divine world can help me familiarize myself with the four-dimensional divine world. Attribute light orbs were a part of the items that had been dropped. As a four-dimensional life form or a four-dimensional treasure, these attribute light orbs would be able to help Lin Chen quickly assimilate into the deity realm. Lin Chen's saint points had already broken through to the mid-stage life and death realm. As long as he recovered to his peak, he would have the power to protect himself in the divine world. Tomorrow is another day of work. Lin Chen fell asleep immediately. The saints in the divine world needed to sleep. At most, they could stay awake for several days and nights. However, their spirit and primordial spirit would fall into a state of fatigue. If he continued to persevere, something would happen. Before he reached the divine realm, he would need to rest every 2 to 3 days. The next day, in the mine, Lin Chen's voice was as if he had been injected with chicken blood. I want to be a worker made of iron. We don't rely on our parents, we only work hard. As long as I work hard enough, the boss will definitely be able to live a better life. Let's do it, brothers. The Saint King Mine head looked at the shouting person who was working as hard as dozens of people. He couldn't help but shake his head in amazement. I knew that this kid was not ordinary. I didn't expect him to be a genius worker. Time passed. Lin Chen had done all kinds of work from the mine to the holy tower. He had collected all the attribute light balls in the area. During this period, Lin Chen had a clearer understanding of the divine world. A month later, Shang Guanqi met with Lin Chen. Lin Chen was surprised. Participate in the Blood Fox Mountain operation? Shang Guanqi said, Yes, sister personally asked you to go. As long as you can survive, you will win. Good luck. This is a cruel competition. Before leaving, Shang Guanqi looked back in confusion and muttered, I really don't know what my sister likes about this guy. At most, he's a genius. No matter how powerful he is, he's only at the 7th level of the Saint Realm. Back at his residence, Lin Chen smiled slightly. It seems that woman wants to use this operation to test my strength. She has at least predicted the 5th level. Unfortunately, Lin Chen smiled as coquettishly as ever. It's a pity that I've predicted your prediction. My basic cultivation base has been restored to 70%. It is easy to hide my cultivation base. It is not so easy for you to find out. I know your strength, but it is difficult for you to know mine. The more you want me to make a move, the deeper I have to hide. Chapter 1877. In a month's time, Lin Chen had a more comprehensive understanding of the God realm. The human territory of the God realm was divided into 5 continents. Each continent was extremely vast, with many sects and gods gathered. And to establish a sect, at least 2 true gods were needed in the sect, and it had to last for 1,000 years to be called an eternal sect. However, ordinary true gods were only low-level gods. Those who could be called true gods were gods who controlled the laws of the Great Tao. The laws of the Great Tao, the truth of the true gods, and everything in the world belonged to the gods. In the God realm, high-level cultivation techniques and mental cultivation methods did not determine everything, but the strength and number of laws. The next day, in the front yard of the Shangguan residence, the tiger-eyed man in black armor, Shangguan Shao, looked around and shouted, This Blood Fox Mountain operation is the preparation of the Shangguan residence for 100 years. It concerns the honor and disgrace of the Shangguan residence. Even if we die, we must kill one of them. Kill one to break even, kill 2 to make a profit. Yes. The 4 quasi-gods of the Shangguan residence and 12 reincarnation saints obeyed the order. Wait a moment. Maid Shaoan appeared with Lin Chen. According to Mrs. Orders, we must bring this Prince Lin Chen with us. 7th level Sage Realm? Maid Shaoan, where did you find this servant? Shangguan Shao was stunned and even suspected that he had seen wrongly. Taking a closer look, he really had seen wrongly. Wasn't this a handyman? Was this AF** King three-dimensional human? This was even more ridiculous than a servant. A beautiful lady with a quasi-god cultivation base giggled and said, "What a handsome young master." A trace of doubt flashed through the beautiful woman's eyes. Lin Chen's eyes surged with a faint light. After staring at the beauty, he smiled casually. "Sister is not bad either. You have a fierce weapon on you." It was indeed a fierce weapon, the serious kind. 7th level Sage Realm of a three-dimensional human? Maid Shaoan, are you kidding me? Shangguan Shao did not even look at Lin Chen. His aura fluctuated, and the pressure of a late-stage quasi-god was faintly released. He sneered. "What did you say? Miss wants me to bring him? Even if you want to be a coolie, you should at least bring along a Saint King." The maidservant, Shaoan, did not dare to disobey him. There was a huge difference between the human clan of the enlightened Sky Continent and the experts who had gone through many battles in the outside world. Shangguan Shao shouted coldly, "This trip is very dangerous. Maidservant Shaoan, don't think that you are the maidservant favored by Miss." A melodious voice rang out, "I was the one who asked you to bring him here. Is there a problem?" Shangguan Qi was dressed in a blue-white palace dress, surrounded by divine light. Her red eyebrows were curved, and the corners of her lips were lifted. She looked like a goddess who had walked out of the divine palace. She glanced at everyone present. Shangguan Shao and the others immediately cupped their fists and said, "Greetings, 7th young mistress." Shang Guanqi said indifferently, "Are you going to question what I want to do?" Shangguan Shao broke out in cold sweat and knelt on one knee. "I dare not." Although he was at the late stage of quasi-god and had a higher possibility of becoming a real god, Shang Guanqi was the daughter of the Shangguan family and had countless resources. He was far from being comparable to her in terms of strength and status. Even if he became a real god, he could not be compared to Miss Shang Guanqi. If he offended her, he would not be able to stay in the Shangguan family anymore. Shang Guanqi glanced at Lin Chen. "Today you will travel with us. You just have to survive." Lin Chen chuckled, "Surviving? It's so difficult. Miss Shangguan, please bring me along to act cool and fly with me. I'm just a silly boy at the 7th level of the Saint stage. Other than being handsome, I'm tough. I'm not handsome and have nothing good about me." Swoosh. A divine light shot out and Shangguan Yun appeared. Today, her hair was tied up with red tassels, and she was wearing azure armor. She looked awe-inspiring. When she saw Lin Chen again, Shangguan Yun showed an extremely rare expression. The corners of her lips curled up slightly as if she had discovered something new. Sure enough, after more than a month of training, this man's fangs had not lost their sharpness. Instead, they had become sharper. Shangguan Yun did not say anything and waved her hand. "Let's go." A grand desolation divine fox had once perished at Mount Bloodfox. The divine fox was an extremely powerful divine beast that wielded multiple elemental divine powers. When it was alive, it had even grasped multiple grand Tao laws. A single law was enough to annihilate the world. After the supreme desolation divine fox died, it turned into Blood Fox Mountain, which was covered by the energy tide all day long. However, there would be a short period of time when the energy tide would recede by more than half. Entering the heavenly lake in Blood Fox Mountain to be baptized, one would obtain the miraculous effect of condensing divine powers. This was extremely beneficial for quasi-gods and divine realm first-layer cultivators. Even if they only absorbed the energy in the heavenly lake at the periphery, it would allow reincarnation sacred realm and quasi-gods to grow rapidly. Therefore, in the past, when the energy tide receded on Blood Fox Mountain, it would attract a large number of experts and divine beasts to enter. Outside the enlightened sky continent, the Lingyun mountain range of the star continent was surrounded by clouds and mist. An endless blood-red mountain shot up into the sky. When the blood-red mist surrounded it, it exuded boundless divine powers, as if it was going to suppress true gods. Clang! An azure sword condensed from divine powers appeared in the sky. Just as Shangguanqi arrived with the people from the Shangguan residence. Rumble! A huge flaming tiger appeared in the sky with a group of people on its back. Shangguan Shao said solemnly, "Young miss, they are from the divine tiger sect?" Shangguanqi nodded calmly while Shangguan Yun was expressionless and cold. It was as if nothing could stir up waves in her heart. The red-haired man on top of the huge flaming tiger looked down at the people from the Shangguan residence and snorted coldly. "It's this woman again." The people on both sides stepped into the air and released a faint divine aura, which intimidated the opponents to a certain extent. Another 2 rays of divine light appeared, and 2 groups of people descended. They were led by true gods again. Lin Chen stood on top of the azure sword and looked around playfully. "Good fellow, they are all ruthless people. Most of them are late first-layer true gods. They are not inferior to the few veteran demon emperors in the Divine River Galaxy. Some of them are even complete first-layer true gods. They are comparable to the heaven-burying demon emperor. They have a lot of attribute light balls on them." It was a pity that Lin Chen's stealing omen could not be activated. After coming to the 4-dimensional divine world, some of his talents could no longer be used. For example, shifting shadows, a super spacetime plane, destructive explosion, destructive destruction, a super chaos, a super-dimensional teleportation, and other talents could no longer be used in the 4-dimensional divine world. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. A spinning millstone tornado formed purely out of divine power came raging toward them. There was a group of young people sitting on top of the tornado, and there was a drunk young man leading them. He was a true god. At this moment, the drunk young man stared in the direction of the Shangguan residence and whistled. "Sister Shangguanqi, long time no see. You have become prettier." Shangguanqi's expression froze, and she did not answer him. Suddenly, the drunk young man found a blind spot and looked at the Shangguan residence's team in shock. "Oh my, am I drunk or is the Shangguan residence drunk? You actually brought a 7th-layer true god over?" As soon as he said that, all the gods looked at the Shangguan residence's team. 7th-layer true god? They are so wild. The Shangguan residence is looking down on us. They brought a 7th-layer true god with them to the Blood Fox Mountain. They are really carefree. The people from the Shangguan residence are really tough recently. How many worries can a gentleman have? Coincidentally, they are at the 7th-layer true god. The people from the Shangguan residence are really fierce. All the true gods sneered. Some even laughed and recited poems. They were so angry that they laughed. It was as if you were going to a dangerous place where it would be difficult to protect yourself, and you actually brought a useless burden along? Why did you bring him along? To be a mascot? The Shangguan family's actions clearly showed that they were looking down on everyone present. Feeling the burning gazes, Lin Chen pretended to be frightened. The beautiful lady beside him said with pity, "Don't be afraid. Come over and let sister hug you." "Whoa, they are really scary. I won't die, right?" Just as Lin Chen was about to bury himself in the waves, suddenly, Shangguan Yun, who had been cold and indifferent, pointed at Lin Chen and said coldly, "This man is my sister Shangguanqi's future fiancé. He is a genius chosen by the Shangguan residence." At this moment everyone was silent. Shangguanqi was stunned at first. Then, she slowly became dumbfounded and stood there in a daze. "Meow meow meow? What is sister saying? Why can't I understand a single word? Even Lin Chuan looked at Shangguan Yun, as if he had seen a ghost, and muttered to himself in shock. There is such a thing? Chapter 1878. Not to mention the various forces present, even the people from the Shangguan family were dumbfounded. Shangguan Qi's almond-shaped eyes were wide open as she looked at her sister in disbelief. Lin Chen suddenly said to Shangguan Qi, "Is your sister really your biological sister?" Shangguan Yun said with a serious expression. "This man is a rare genius of the Shangguan family. In the future, he has the potential to become a god through body refinement, primordial spirit, and cultivation." Lin Chen was dumbfounded. "What the hell? Are you a King Prophet? How many levels did she predict me? Did this woman predict the atmospheric layer?" Lin Chen said, "Wow, I'm so King awesome. Did I just get blown up by someone?" Who would have thought that Shangguan Yun would not stop until she said something shocking. "This man looks like a true god, but his divine light is restrained. He is elegant, charming, and has countless trump cards. He has the means to threaten a true god at the 7th level sage realm. It was the Shangguan family that went through all kinds of hardships to let him marry into the Shangguan family." Lin Chen. "What? Why did she peek at the script? Listen, is this something that a human can say?" Lin Chen really wanted to walk over and search her body from head to toe, not letting go of a single seam until he found the script. Lin Chen couldn't help but think to himself, "System, where did she buy the script? Why don't I have it?" Heavenly Tao Character Collecting System. Shangguan Qi was anxious. "Sister, you," Shangguan Yun gave her a look, signaling her not to speak. She glanced at Lin Chen again, then looked around and said indifferently, "Don't underestimate him. You will lose miserably." After that, the whole place was still silent. "Ah, I'm convinced. With Miss Shangguan Qi's talent, she found a 7th level sage realm cultivator to be her fiancé? What kind of taste does the Shangguan family have?" "I'm convinced too. Shangguan Yun, even if you want to find a shield for your sister, you should find a decent one, right? A 7th level sage realm cultivator can threaten a true god? Shangguan Yun, don't tell me you're writing a novel?" All the powerhouses were either holding their stomachs or shaking their heads with ridicule. Miss Shangguan Qi from the Shangguan family was talented. She was a saint king in 10 years, stepped into the reincarnation saint realm in 100 years, and became a god in less than 1,000 years. In terms of talent, she was one of the top talents in the Northwest region, not to mention the Star State. It wouldn't be too much for such a person to marry into a force that was 1 or 2 levels stronger than the Shangguan family. The young Shangguan Yun's eyes sobered up Shangguan Yun. "Shangguan Yun, you know that I'm interested in Qi'er, you don't have to use this method to anger me. Choosing this kind of trash as a shield, are you trying to humiliate my Lian clan?" Then, he looked at Shangguan Qi. "Or is it true, Qi'er?" Shangguan Qi was a little flustered and quickly waved her hand. "No, brother Qingyu," Shangguan Yun stopped her. To her, her sister's orders were absolute and could not be disobeyed. Shangguan Qi, who had nowhere to vent her anger, could only stare at Lin Chen with resentment. Lin Chen spread out his hands, as if it had nothing to do with him. Everyone from the Shangguan family was dumbfounded. They didn't understand what they were doing because their cultivation was not high enough. They didn't even understand why this guy was so disrespectful to the 2 ladies of the Shangguan family. Was he really the son-in-law of the Shangguan family? That was too ridiculous. Lian Qingyu was so angry that he laughed. Good Shangguan family." His eyes were about to spit fire, and his power soared. Terrifying wind pressure burst out from his body, crushing the mountains and rivers. His power was vaguely aimed at Lin Chen. Lian Qingyu stared at Lin Chen and said sarcastically, "I hope you won't let me down. You're the fiancé of the Shangguan family." Lin Chen's mouth twitched slightly. When he turned to look at Shangguan, he couldn't help but sigh. What a ruthless person. In order to test Lin Chen's background, this woman even sold her sister's reputation. Was this a woman who had survived the ninefold realm sea? She was really outstanding. He rarely met a match in his life. Today, he finally met one. This was a woman who could brag more than him. Lin Chen walked to her side and said seriously, "Miss Shangguan, what were you talking about just now? I didn't understand at all. Is it really necessary?" Shangguan said indifferently, "It doesn't matter if you don't understand, because hesitation will lead to failure." Lin Chen said, "But being decisive will lead to nothing." Shangguan said coldly, "That depends on what you get in return." Lin Chen couldn't help but applaud for her. She was too outstanding. In this wave, she made a preemptive strike for Lin Chen. No matter what the reason was, as long as they entered Bloodfox Mountain, Lin Chen would become the target of public criticism. There were those who looked down on Lin Chen, those who were jealous of Lin Chen, those who were curious about Lin Chen, and those who wanted to test Lin Chen's depth. In this way, it would be difficult for Lin Chen to not make a move. When the time came, how many trump cards would be exposed? Wouldn't it be arranged clearly for you? Is this real or fake? My family's big watchdog seems to be above 7th level Sage Realm, right? There's a basic rule for bragging. This belongs to the category of bragging. When we enter Bloodfox Mountain later, we'll know with a try. 7th level Sage Realm, no matter what trump cards he has, this young master can destroy him in one move. Many young talents who had gathered here with their true gods either sneered or were disdainful. But their goal was the same, and that was Lin Chen. Lin Chen rubbed his nose. This sister's move is really ruthless. If it wasn't for the fact that she saved my life, I'm afraid I would have run away directly. The people of the divine world are indeed not ordinary people. Lin Chen looked at Shangguan, who was waiting for the energy tide to disperse. She was calm, and her cold eyes were especially deep, as if no one could see through her thoughts. She exuded an aura that was completely different from the other true gods present. In this round, it could be said that Shangguan had gained the upper hand. However, it might not be the case in the next round. Swish! The sound of wind whistling rang out, and another group of people appeared. The person in the lead was as vast as the sea. She was elegant and beautiful, and her elegant blue palace dress was like floating clouds. She had beautiful eyebrows and a beautiful head. Her wrist was white as snow, and there was a pitch-black sword hanging on her slender waist. When this woman appeared, other than Shangguan, all the true gods showed fear and dread at the same time. Why is this crazy woman here too? Didn't she go to participate in the Alchemy Association to refine her divine pills? How can she get involved in this? The true gods were talking to each other through voice transmission. The woman in the blue palace dress said indifferently, "Today, the Yu family wants one of the blood pools on Bloodfox Mountain. I've finished speaking. Who agrees and who disagrees?" She transmitted her voice in all directions, and the true gods' mouths twitched slightly. However, no one dared to speak. Lin Chen's eyes lit up, and he clicked his tongue in wonder. This woman's background was probably not simple. She was covered in the light of elemental light balls. At this moment, the woman transmitted her voice again. "Very good. Since no one spoke, that means no one disagrees. If anyone dares to reach the blood pool in front of me later..." She smiled slightly, patted the sword on her waist, and released a brilliant sword intent with a murderous aura. "I'll make your heads explode." The disciples of more than a dozen ancient sects could not help but change their expressions slightly. This woman was so domineering. "Lin Chen, be careful of this woman." At this moment, Fairy Scarlet's voice came from Lin Chen's Providence plant pouch. Lin Chen's heart skipped a beat. Be careful of this woman? You're tuning in to the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.